My husband is number one. If my husband tells me, hey, sit down, I'll sit down. If he tells me you can't go out with your friends today, I'm not going to go out with my friends. He says, hey, go wash this dish for me, I'm going to go wash the dish for him. I chose this man to be the king of my life. And yes, I agree with everything he says, and I do everything he says. And I did that because I chose this man. I put him in this position of my life. And this is how I honor and take care of and love the man in my life. So I tell women out there, you want a man in your life, you want to be happy, figure out what you would do when you are happy. Because I am happy. My husband does so many great things for me. And I would do that for him. I obey him, I respect him, and I let him be the man that he is. I chose a man that I wanted to follow. I chose someone to lead me. And that's why I will do anything for him. If he tells me jump, I'll jump. If he tells me sit down, I'll sit down. If he tells me go in the room or go up on stage, I will do either or. Anyways, that's a message. My husband.
Hey guys, and welcome to Little Blackbird 91. Today we're gonna have an open panel. Yes, we're having an open panel where you guys can come in and tell us your side as well. On Sunday, we had a great conversation between the boys. We discussed, can men tell the women the truth? And today we're opening it up to say, ladies, this is your opportunity now to come and have your say. A lot of you guys were not silent on Sunday. I need you not to be silent again today. But I also need you guys to come on the panel and give us your truths. So we're continuing the conversation and asking the question, can women now tell men the truth? Or do you have a addition as well to can men tell women the truth? This is what we're discussing today on the open panel. Can't wait to have you guys in and have that discussion. But before we get to that main crux of conversation, before we even open up the panels as well to you guys, we got a little dilemma, a little topic, a little something to ruffle some feathers, because since we ended the conversation on Sunday on one of the notes talking about submission, I was like, well, do you know what? We've been having a little conversation on my Instagram as well. Why not continue it a little bit more for the next 10, 15 so minutes? I know this video is going to send people through the roof because it's sending me up the moon. So I ain't gonna lie. Let's have that conversation tonight. So if you feel like you want to be involved in a conversation, listen, my people, I'm gonna put the link in the chat for you. We want to hear your thoughts. We want to hear your opinions. If you've got something to say, this is going to be the night, It's usually on a Tuesday night, guys. Unfortunately, I was sick yesterday, so I couldn't do it yesterday night. So we're doing it today. But every Tuesday night, we're going to have an open panel for both men and women to come and have their say. So I'm going to put a link in the chat. If you feel like you're ready to come and say your piece, you got something to add, you feel like, you know what? You got some valuable additional information to give us, then by all means, I need you to step in. Okay. All right. Until then, we're gonna jump straight into this dilemma. If you're new to the channel, though, first of all, like it, share, subscribe, click on that bell button for notification of the uploads. We appreciate you guys. Stay locked and stay loaded. I can already see that the people are saying, why did I choose this mad video? Well, life is full of madness, they say. Do you know what I mean? So I'm going to play the clip one more time, and then I'm going to invite two of my guests who are already behind the scenes, and then we'll get the conversation flowing, all right? So let's play this clip one more time. So if you missed it, for those of you who missed it, here's a clip we're just talking about first and foremost before we go into our main topic of the evening. Hallelujah.
Do when you are happy, because I am happy. My husband does so many great things for me, and I would do that for him. I obey him, I respect him, and I let him be the man that he is. I chose a man that I wanted to follow. I chose someone to lead me, and that's why I will do anything for him. If he tells me jump, I'll jump. If he tells me sit down, I'll sit down. If he tells me go in the room or go up on stage, I will do either or. Anyways, that's a message. My husband is my boss. My husband is number one. If my husband tells me, hey, sit down, I'll sit down. If he tells me you can't go out with your friends today, I'm not going to go out with my friends. says, hey, go wash this dish for me. I'm going to go wash the dish for him. I chose this man to be the king of my life. And yes, I agree with everything he says, and I do everything he says. And I did that because I chose this man. I put him in this position in my life. And this is how I honor and take care of and love the man in my life.
I ain't gonna lie to you, but it sounds like she's got a ransom note that she's reading, and so that her husband's telling her to say these things. But let me get my panelists on today. I'm sure a few more people will join a little bit later on. But this is just an opening conversation before we get to our actual main topic today. So we decided to cause a bit of carnage before we start. So I got Corey, and I've also got Sammy as well. Sammy Sam as well. Good to see you as well, babe. Welcome to the panel today. I want to get you guys' thoughts on this subject because this is a little bit mad. You know, we talk about submission all the time. Submission. I'm sure ladies hear this all the time. Sammy Sam, let me go to you first. Your first initial impression of this particular video. What was your first reaction to this particular video?
Hi everyone. So my first reaction was, okay, well, she's happy. So I'm happy that she's happy. Every time I hear people talk about submission, I always wonder in the context, what do they mean by submitting to their partner? Being Christian, I believe that I want to submit to a man that submit to God, and I want to make sure that this man is my husband. But before submission, what do we mean about it? Like, do we mean whatever my man say I'm going to do? Does it mean I cannot have a voice in the relationship? It really depends on the context. What I've seen around me is that a lot of people use that term in the wrong context, right? So for me, if you do not believe in God, if you do not know what submission means, I'm not going to have that discussion with you because I feel like you do not really understand the meaning of submission. So yeah, that's my opinion on that.
I hear that. Love for that. Thank you. Corey, what's your thoughts? What's your thoughts on this video?
Hey, to be honest with you, I love the video. I love the video, and I want to say this: that perspective is everything, right? So to me, I don't think she literally means she jumps when he says jump. She says how high. I don't literally take it that way. I take it in her situation. What she's saying is that she chose the man in her life to lead her. So because she chose him, she trusts the decisions that he makes, the decisions that include her. Now, in her saying that the sit down, stand up, or jump or whatever, I think it's pushed out there a little bit. But I think it goes to say that, okay, if he says to sit down, if he says to jump, if he says to go upstairs, there is a reasoning behind that, and there's a reasoning that she trusts for him saying that. I'm not saying he's saying it in a way that's disrespectful or belittling, but he may be saying it because it could be something of serious need or immediate need. Like if you need to sit down or scooch low or whatever the case is, it could be a dangerous situation. I don't necessarily see it as her being belittled. I just see it as her saying this is the man she trusts. She even says that. She said, I obey him, I do this, I do that, because I chose this man to lead me. I chose this man to marry. So these are where she knows his man before she even got married to him. And I think that's really important. You need to know your spouse or potential spouse inside and out before you even cross that line, to know whether or not they're going to say something that's belittling, to know whether or not they're going to be have physical or domestic violence. You have to know your partner as much as you possibly can until you know what I'm saying, before you get married. You never know anyone 100%, but you should know someone well enough to know how they're going to treat you. It seemed like she did that with this guy. It's her, just for her though.
No, I hear you. I think my initial reaction to the video was, God have mercy. I was like, is this girl a hostage or what? That's what it sounded like as my initial impression of what she was saying. I do understand the principle here in regards to, obviously, like she said, she chose this man. There's an element of trust, and so therefore, when he does say, "Let's go left," she goes left. You know, if you jump. I got that. I guess just the examples that she used sounded very much like master and slave, rather than somebody who willingly laid down their someone who willingly laid down their right to maneuver as an individual. You know what I mean? So that's why I was a little bit like, you know what I mean, because of the way it sounded. But I do take the principle from what she's saying in regards to, trusting her man. Do you know what I mean? And trusting her husband to lead. You know, I think from my perspective, you know, I think from my perspective, I think when it comes to this topic of submission, especially because obviously we're talking about this on Sunday as well, I'm not looking for necessarily total dominance or anything like that. I'm not looking for, for a person to be a puppy dog. But I would say, I do love someone who is, and I don't want to say the word compliant, but somebody who takes in your interest, and someone who understands that that's why I like the word in they're giving up. It's similar to what she was saying, but without maybe the examples. But the person understands that, and like I said, if it comes to me personally, how I look at submission, because I'm a person that likes to be cooperative, I understand that sometimes if I'm saying, nah, I have a very strong inkling on this particular subject, that's where I'm looking at submission. But in general principle, I always say there's different aspects to a relationship, because different decisions don't require a unilateral decision making. You know what I mean? Like I've always said this: if I go and buy a TV, I don't need to be like, I don't think I need to be unilateral. Do you know what I mean? Like, bro, it's a TV. If you think this TV look better, babe, I'm gonna buy the TV. I'm not about to be unilateral and be like, I'm the man. You know what I mean? Like, if we need to buy a car, I might be like, to be honest, look, you think we should get a 4-wheeler? All right, let's get a 4-wheeler. Like, okay, cool. Which 4-wheeler we getting? You know what I mean? I think we can be democratic on a lot of these issues. We can be coachable on certain issues. You know what I mean? I think we can take a more laissez-faire approach on certain issues. I think for me, when it comes to submission, I think from my perspective as the leader, I'm looking at ways of the types of leadership that's required to lead. There are going to be times where, and this is where it does come into play. Maybe somebody can jump into what that young lady was talking about, is that when it gets to a point where it requires what I call authoritarian leadership in this moment. Authoritarian leadership usually is crisis moments. They're actually usually crisis moments, crunch time moments, and very crucial decision-making time that usually authoritarian kind of, I believe, decision-making has to come in. It's not for your everyday decision-making. Do you know what I mean? That feels like control. I don't know. That's for me personally. Maybe I'll give a bit more a little bit later on. But Sammy, jump back in again. What's your thoughts here?
So I did not like the example that she gave. The whole, if he tells me to jump, I jump. I felt that was probably for shock value that she said it. I would not want to submit. I would not want to be in a relationship with somebody that think that he can just tell me to do things without giving me, for example, an explanation. I believe that communication is very important. And I do believe, like you said, that the biggest moment, the biggest time when a man can really show himself as a leader would be in a time of crisis, or would be in a situation where maybe in the couple that's his things, right? So for example, you with somebody and he's more into technology and everything. So yeah, if a TV needs to be bought and the lady is not that much into technology, I think it's okay for the man to make a big decision on that, right? But if, for example, the lady is very big into gardening or into, I don't know, whatever activity she likes, so that she's like more dominant into the couple, she should also be able to be trusted to make those decisions for the couple, because she, has that knowledge that her husband may not have. I think that what is the point of being a leader if you don't have people that you can rely on? Who are you leading? Are you going to lead people you don't trust? Are you going to always be in a position where you know everything? Hopefully not. I wouldn't want to be with a partner that wouldn't want to have my input in certain topics, especially in topics where he's not that good at.
I love the point you made at the very end there as well about, and I'll let Corey jump in a second. I love the point you made there about uh the input, right? I'm gonna spike some people. I think, and it's not you personally, it's me talking to the ladies as well. I love that, right? So I love when women say they want the input. They want to be able to have a voice, be able to contribute towards, like I said, decision making, everyday decision making, etc. I would also love that to be vice versa, meaning I would love for women also to be open to actually also saying, "Let me ask my man what he thinks," because a lot of times, sometimes when I hear the pushback on submission as well, I also hear the very much the strong independence from some women too, that they don't even want to even ask our input. It goes the opposite way. So very much like when we're saying, and I agree with you, I think as a leader, I've always said this, you want to ask the input of the people that you're leading. You don't want to just lead and not be asking their input. You know what I mean? And vice versa too. I think as a person in a relationship, as a leader in a relationship, also, I love it when my partner will come to me and be like, "Babe, what do you think of this?" It's not that I'm even going to even change the decision. I just love the fact you would even consider me to even have a thought, an opinion, and trust my judgment on something, so that you can go and take it. Like, okay, well, babe, I thought about it. I hear what you said. I'm gonna go and consider it and figure out what I'm gonna do. I think it's also beautiful when it's also reversed, because oftentimes it's always said about how we should be considering them, but it's never really spoken about how the other way around. When you're taking a decision, when the lady's been in her space, does she consider us? Does she ask us to have an opinion and a thought? You know what I mean? And I think that is also beautiful as well. But let me let Corey jump in there. Jump in there, Corey. What are you saying?
Yeah, so I think that's a legitimate fear that a lot of women do have, that fear of not being able to have their own control, not be able to say the things they want to say and be listened to. And I think there is a power struggle of today between men and women as far as who can lead, who can do this, who can do that. So with that, it comes a lot of confusion. So in my opinion, when it comes to submission, to being able to submit to someone is not something I would ask any woman if she can do in the first place. It's a natural act to me. It's a natural form of trust, an intimate trust that you have for someone. So with that being said, if I'm in a relationship and everything is going the way I want it to go, in my eyes, everything is going the way she wants it to go in her eyes, that's a solid relationship. But the question of what do you categorize, or what do you define submission for? I don't want to give you my definition so you can pretend or tweak yourself to be that. You know what I mean? I want the natural you, just like you want the natural me. I think in relationships we ask too many questions. We are robbing ourselves of that experience of getting to know each other organically. We rob ourselves of the experience of knowing if someone is really being true to what they're saying. So I think if you go with the course of the relationship, introduce yourself, get to know each other, go plan dates, to do the things you would normally do. Don't ask so many questions as far as what the other person likes, whether the person does this or does that. You will figure those things out along the way. Now, if she tells you this in conversation, it's up to you to pay attention. If he tells you in conversation, it's up to you to pay attention. But the paying attention part is what's of real value in any relationship. Pay attention to things that are being done and said. And based upon those things that have been done and said, you will know for yourself if you're willing or able to submit to that person. Because like I said before, it is two-way street. It's a husband submits to his wife as well as the wife submits to the husband. So it's never one way, but he has to see something in you. You have to see something in him in order for that to go down.
I hear that. Sammy, how do you see it? Obviously, you are married, so I guess how do you see submission? How does that play a role in your marriage, and what position you play? How does that look like to you?
Yeah, to me, I feel like when there's important decision, I'm always going to go to my husband just because I trust him. I think for me it's easy on that side because I trust him. But it's true that there would be areas where I never really asked for his input, but probably because I don't think that he's as interested. I mean, I don't think he would be as interested in certain area that I care about, but whenever they're very important decision that needs to be made, I do ask for his opinion. But to be honest, I am the type of person that's very communicative. I'd like to be able to say what I think. I like the back and forth. But I also do understand that there might be some situation where the back and forth is just not gonna happen. And that is something that I personally struggle with, but that I am aware that I need to work on. I married somebody that I trust in a lot of where the areas are very important. I trust him. I would say that. I don't think he's perfect. He's not, but certain areas, a lot of areas, I trust him. So for me, it's easy to just want to know what he thinks, how we're going to go about certain things. But I do expect him, because he knows who he's with, to ask me what I think too. I hope that answers.
No, that's cool. How do you feel about so you feel comfortable with him leading? Would you say is that I don't know how your dynamics are. So you might I don't know how your dynamics are. So like obviously, of course, I know your situation not like the lady said in the video. But when we say submission, does that mean that he takes a lead? Like, does he take a lead on the situation, or is it more? Are you guys more collaborative? Like, how does the decision making look for you guys then for your relationship then?
It depends of the area. There's some areas where it's going to be more collaborative because those are areas that I'm interested in. And I believe myself to be very strong, opinionated. So I want to partake. I want to be able to say what I think. But there's also other areas where it definitely is going to have the last word. Maybe because I feel like he knows more than I do, or I may not be as interested, or sometimes things are really bad and I just don't know what to do and I'm going to rely on him. But I must also say that we're pretty young, and the fact that we haven't had like situation where things were so bad that I had to rely on him for certain things. But I would say it's more collaborative. But if I see my husband saying like in an authoritative ways, hey, this is it and that's it, at the moment, I'm going to let him have his way, but I'm always going to go back later down the line and ask, hey, why did you make that decision? Why do you feel like, you couldn't tell me in advance? Like, I want to know. I just want to know. That's just how I am as a person. And that is something I'm working with. I've said that before, like if I see my husband saying, hey, right now, this is very important and this is going to be what it's going to be. If I see his mannerism being a little like tense and stressed, I would know not to push. I'll probably come back later and ask him. I have my ways.
Of course.
But I
we understand. We understand. There's ways.
have my ways.
There's ways. We understand.
I'd say
He's saying, Corey, go for it.
It's tough. It's getting to that level of wanting to marry someone. It's tough. It's really tough. So say for instance, with all due respect for your union that you have with your husband, because every partnership is different, right? Everyone has different wants and needs within that partnership. My partnership is my thoughts of being a leader in the household and being head of the household is a little bit different. It's not to say that that I want to make every decision that goes on, that I do not respect my woman's input, and even take her input over mine. You know what I'm saying? It's having the ability to use common sense at the same time, right? So it's not about on demand. So whatever I say as it goes, it's more about, who do you trust? Do you trust that man to make logical decisions? Then in the best interest of you and the family. So if you can do that, then that's fine. But anything outside of that can cause some problems, in the trust your woman has in you. So when I get married, I want my wife to trust me intimately, honestly, to a core. So if she's not in the picture at that time, in the decisions that I make, for our family, for our household. She trusts me to make the best decision for the family without any, follow-up questioning as far as why you did this, why I did that. It should make sense to you as it would to me. If it doesn't, of course, the conversation is welcome, but the chances of that happening should be minimal instead of more of on that collaborative way that Sammy is speaking of, in my opinion.
But can I add something?
Sure.
In response to you, Corey, I do think that also the way you see things maybe because of your upbringing. For example, my husband and I, we married really young, so we grew together, right?
Got
So
you. Okay.
when you marry in your 20s, as a young man, you don't have it all figured out, even in your 30s, right? So I would say that your approach, I would expect that more of a man that is a little bit like higher up in age. And when I say higher up, not necessarily old, but I would say end of 30s that really knows what he's looking for. And because you have that type of mindset, I probably will, if I were to date in my 30s, I may want to be with somebody like that, but because in my situation I grew with the person that I married, I'm still growing with the person that I'm married, is different, right? Because I knew didn't have it all figured out, right? So I think it also depends on where you are in life, and you also have to be willing to also date that type of woman, because if you are that type of man in your 40s that feel like your woman should trust you, without questioning, and you're going to go and date with a woman that's 35 that probably has lived just as much as you have lived, that have those experiences, she's probably going to have questions because she's had time to figure herself out, and she probably learned and got used to be independent. So then you have to learn again to like put your 100% trust into somebody, and that comes with time. That's not something you can ask out of somebody. Dating them, even after 2-3 years, that's still too early.
Okay. Now, Sammy, this is your first time interacting with me on this live, which is amazing because you spoke on the type of man that I am, right? And then you said it's going to take more than 2 or 3 years to get to that level where I want to be. Hence why, fellas, you guys notice.
No.
I have told the guys here and everybody who's watching, I've told them for me, it's going to be like a minimum of 5 years before I get married, right? And when I say that, it makes sense to what you're saying, right? So I don't mean it literally 5 years, but it's going to take some time, is what I'm saying. So that just speaks to what I was saying, and that's why I gave respect to you and your husband's union, because there are things that exist that I don't know about. I didn't know you married young. I didn't know you guys grew up together, and those are things. So I'm very careful when speaking on someone's relationship when I don't know all the details. So I appreciate you giving a little bit more of that to it. So it makes more sense to me now, hearing that you guys grew up together. So you know this man way better than what I was given credit for. So much respect to that.
Thanks.
Not you taking validation for your 5-year plan, sir.
Yo, I got it.
That's not what she said. That's not what she said. But no. But no. I mean, this, and I guess, and this is part of that real conversation, right? Because as much as about submission, is also about choosing your partners and relationship wise, right? But this is why I think, certain dynamics, you want to be wise in what kind of partnership you require from somebody. Do you know what I mean? Like I said, I've dated somebody who, you know what, she was more than capable of making her own decisions and killing it. You know what I mean? And at the time, she was making more money than I was, but she would be like, if she was taking a major decision, she'd be like, "Hey, babe, what do you think about this?" And I'll be like, I don't know. Like, I think it's pretty cool. You want to go with it? Go for it. You know what I mean? And I think that taught me so much. But that also came with an expectation that obviously as a man, you lead not only in the decision making, the finances, and I don't really mind that. It was cool. But I really love that dynamic, right? That's that for me. And that's probably more for me than I would say for a general every man. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's what every man's got to kind of figure out for himself. Because I think for me, I like a person that will be like, "Hey, like, what do you think about this?" And I'm not saying that even my input needs to change your decision making. It's simply the consideration of the input, and vice versa. I want to also be able to bring you and be like, hey, look, what do you think about this? All right, cool. It doesn't mean I'm going to change my decision. Just means that I want to consider you. Okay. But if it affects the family, then of course, we need to discuss it. We need to make sure that this is the best decision that we're taking. And there'll be times where, like I said, I'm happy to take decisions that people will not like, because I've seen what happens when men don't take this. And this is me just now talking now. There are times where, as a man, you're going to have to take decisions that women don't like. And sometimes, I'll be honest with you, women, I love you, but sometimes y'all be seeing things that we don't be seeing. And you know what? And we may have to concede, and we might get it wrong, and we might have to come back around and say, listen, babe, we're sorry, we missed it. But there are also times where we like, babe, I know you see it this way, but trust and believe we've got to go this way. And that's where submission comes into play. Because, and when I say submission, the word submission not even there, that's where trust comes into play. Where, and I said this before, and I've said this before as well on the channel, which is that, I think, and Corey kind of mentioned it about the trust issue between men and women that's current buck stop. If I make a decision, I get it wrong. If you then turn away and say, I can never trust his leadership again, you're not the kind of person I need to be in a relationship with. If I get one chance and you cancel me as a leader, you got trust issues. So that I don't need to be with a person like that. Do you know what I mean? Because we're all bound to make mistakes. And I think that's where the trust and submission comes into play, and choosing the kind of partner that you're going to be with. Because if I make a mistake, you go and cancel me, nah, that don't make no sense. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think I think each individual person's also got to look at that, how they like the parameters of that partnership to kind of go. You know what I mean? Yeah, go for it, Corey.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man. I just want to speak on what you said, because that's so
Yeah.
important. The piece that what you said about when you're in a relationship, you're asking your partner, their thoughts. You want to get their advice on certain things. That should happen a lot in the relationship, because that's going to let you know how your other partner thinks, and if they are capable of leading. So, say for instance, you have a job. Okay, so say for instance, I got a job offer. Babe, I got a job offer. It's paying $10,000 more a year than what I'm currently making. I'm really thinking about if I need to make the move or not. But it's a better job. It's a better fit for my schooling, for my education. It's a better fit for what I know than what I'm currently at. It pays $10,000 more, but I'm kind of comfortable where I am. What do you think about that? To see how their mind calculates how things go. I think a woman should ask men those type of questions, or calculating questions that kind of require some thinking, to be able to understand, okay, in certain situations, this is how your man is going to think. So you will feel more comfortable with having him lead in certain areas. So I just want to pinpoint what you were saying. That's all.
Love that. Sammy, any other input before I let Sean jump in as well?
No input for me. I'm listening.
No worries. Sean. The moustache is really moustaching today. What's going on, guys? It's that Pablo Escobar moustache, bro. What's going on? You just need a cigar.
It's stress.
What are you telling me, bro? We were talking about this is the opening. We haven't gone into the main topic yet. So it was a video that we played. It was around submission, and then it kicked off the conversation. But from what you've heard so far, I don't know if you have any thoughts or anything like that.
Yeah, I think, well, one, I think, it's important that you are on the same page, right? So I think the worst thing a man can do is if you just assume, like, because we're at X, that the submission just comes along with it, just because we're together, or just because we're talking about marriage, that you just assume, right? Because we know what happens when we assume. So I think we got to be on the same page. And understand what it is. I think that's super important that we kind of get down to it. And sometimes we got to be willing to know what we want to tussle with and what we don't want to tussle with. And if there's a lot of tussling around what submission looks like and what you ain't going to do and what you're not going to do, I think sometimes you're just better off going separate ways. And I think we need to have these conversations very early on. Just to make sure we understand. And I'm not saying like we should have blanket submission, right? I definitely don't think a woman should just be blindly and have a blanket submission. You need to get to know me. You need to see, you need to see me in a couple of seasons, not 5 years, not 20 seasons like Corey talking about, but we could see each other through some seasons, and then that way you can know what I'm about, that you can get an understanding, and not just from me telling you, but from me seeing it in action. And that's the same thing that I believe is important for me to see in a woman, right? I want to see you. I want to see, how you really handle things, because a lot of times people are very good at saying the right things, but when the rubber meets the road, how do you do that, right? When we have our first disagreement and all the butterflies are gone, how do you deal with that? I think you were talking about it, Kojo, right? Like, if I make a mistake or a miscalculation, I got you when I told you so, and it's like you're shut down, and then it's all the baggage from Raheem, Jamal, and Ramel that you want to throw at me just because I made a mistake, right? It definitely it's bound to happen. Now, it depends on the level of the mistake, what the mistake was. All of those things obviously are important, but you can't expect perfection, right? So you can't be expecting like, oh, if I'm submitting to him, he can't do nothing wrong. Yeah, no, that's you have the wrong approach. And I don't want us to operate from that mindset. And sometimes people, and I say people because it's men and women, you bring the things that triggered you from your past. You bring some of those wounds, and you say you're healed, you think you're healed, but you haven't necessarily done the work. So I think people need to really do the work on themselves. And one of the key things that I often talk about as I think about moving into relationships is, what are you working on? Because you can tell me what everybody else that you encountered did wrong. But if you can talk about what you're working on within yourself, and then that's what I'm doing. And I think, from somebody that was married for 5 years and saw some of the pitfalls, when you spend too much time focusing outward, those are the things that unravel relationships. If you're focusing on yourself and bringing up things to the person, hey, listen, you did this, it bothered me. That person could tell you some things that you did that bothered them. And then y'all are working collectively together as a unit on yourselves. But if you want to sit in the seat of telling me what I did all day long, and you think that you're always right, and women always know, and women are the better communicators, like, when I start hearing things like that, those are things that are red flags, So that's my thoughts so far.
Love that. That's what we're talking about. Are we gonna add something, Corey?
We said.
Oh, if we were gonna add something, my bad.
Oh, I wanted to ask a question.
Go for it. Yeah, please.
How do you have a conversation on submission? Like, you're dating someone, then you have a conversation about that? Like,
I personally don't converse about it, to be honest with you, because, like I said, it's a natural act. You're going to naturally do it, or you're naturally not going to. If you don't, then you're not the woman for me. If you do, then okay, we can continue to move forward. But it's not a conversation for me.
Yeah, because Sean, I think, mentioned a conversation whenever you talk, and that's why I'm wondering, how does that go?
Well, I think you can ask some questions, right? Like, what are your ideas of conflict, right? Like, how do we resolve if we don't disagree? Like, what are your thoughts about that? I think it's very important, because that's when submission is going to come into play. How would you handle it if you disagree with me, right?
Well, what can you give me a specific example? Because I feel like if I disagree with someone and I'm able to express my opinion in a very respectful manner without it being going back and forth, if I disagree with you, does that still mean I'm not submissive because I'm a woman?
No, I didn't say you can't disagree.
No, I'm just saying
but how do you handle that, right? And then it's definitely going to have to be some things that are, well, what you say, does what you say match how you act, right? What's your overall disposition? So there's going to be some observations, I think, but just talking about generally, like, can you think about the last time you had an argument? How did that go?
So for me, submission, honestly, is a very difficult discussion for me to have with anybody in the instance they don't believe in God. Because submission is very biblical, right? So if, for example, I'm dating someone and he doesn't believe in God, really, what are you talking about? Because
Well, then
I'm not
there you
really
go.
that I can even be led by somebody that doesn't believe in God, because biblically, submission, a woman submits to a man that's going to submit to God, right? So if I don't believe you to live in a holy way, and it's just a matter of how do we communicate in conflict, it might not be sufficient for me as a woman. I may still disagree with you, but it's not that I'm not submitting. It's just that you may not be cut up.
Well, I think that goes back to, what I mentioned earlier is sometimes that's when you have to know when to hold them and when to fold them, right? Because if you two are not on the same playing field, if you two are not evenly yoked, as you mentioned, then those are things that are going to come out, just like we had that dialogue, right, Sam? So if you said, listen, I asked you the question and you said to me, hey, listen, I'm not submitting to anybody that doesn't serve God, right? Then that's going to elicit a response from me to either say, yes, 100%. I wouldn't want you to, because that's who I'm consulting first. Now, if I say, listen, I'm spiritual and I cling bells and I talk about Yam no Hoden Gehio, then we already know, right? We already know it's not going to be a match and we could just cut our losses and move separate ways. So I think that's the springboard for future conversations. It is not like everything's going to rest on how we have that dialogue, but we're going to open up the floor for how you think, how I think, how we plan to work things out. I think, listen, a lot of people talk about Will Smith and Jada and their relationship dynamic, but there was one thing I remember that they spoke about that stood out to me, and it's something that I think we need to be very intentional about. And there was a time when Jada and Will were having an argument, and I think they were having a game night, and she wound up cursing at him. And he told her, if you're going to be with me, this is what you're not going to do. We're not going to communicate like that. I grew up seeing my father do that. I talk to my mom in that way, and I don't want to relate that way, right? And I think it was a perfect example of being very intentional and setting some ground rules for how you want to communicate. Because what I learned from my own mistakes is that when you set the bar at whatever comes out of one another's mouth and you don't set ground rules for what you're not going to say, it just leaves the door open for the communication between the two of you to be very damaging to the relationship. So for me, that's something important. And again, in having this conversation, we can flesh it out. Because if somebody is like, listen, well, I like to curse, and I just might curse at you if I get upset, I'm going to say, well, I thank you for your honesty, but for me, that doesn't work. I don't like to be cursed at. It doesn't make me feel good. And then ultimately what it makes me want to do is curse back at you. And that doesn't set respect up for us. So either you can agree that we're going to make a rule to not do that, or we can part ways. And I think those conversations need to be had. Now, not date 1, 2, but down the line as you feel like this is somebody who's serious, I can be serious with.
Okay.
Personally, it's a bit like the question, obviously, what do you bring to the table? I think I said this, what do you bring to the table? I've never asked a woman what does she bring to the table, but I've asked her what she brings to the table. I don't ask her directly what she brings to the table. I ask questions that speak to what qualities, what characteristics, what skills. Then I extract the information as to this is what you bring to the table. I'm never going to ask you what you bring to the table because it triggers people, so it just climbs up the conversation. But I'm going to ask you what you bring to the table. Okay, so and you're going to ask me what do I bring to the table. So we may not like the question, but the reality is, if we're doing our due diligence and collecting data, we're actually extracting that information anyway. And one of the things that I look for when I'm particularly dating is, I said, I don't like the word compliance. There's another word I'm trying to think of. And it's not compliance, but it's another word. Like, I look for somebody who is, I would say this,
Amiable?
yes, I mean, amenable probably a better word. Yes, amenable is one of the words, but there's another word I was thinking about. I can't think of it. It'll come to me later on. But let's say amenable, right? Um, let's say somebody who also too, and I remember I spoke to a friend about this. I know she was mad at me when I had that conversation after, but I remember I asked her a question. I said, "There's a fork in the road. We're walking and there's a fork in the road." I said, "Let's go right." She said, "Let's go left." I said, in the end, I said, "Okay, well, we both discussed it. We gave our valid points of why right or left should be chosen." In the end, I said to her, "Listen, look, now we've got to a point, both of us are button heads. We both have the same level of intellect, but you know what? None of us are budging. I'm going to take the final decision. We're going to go right." Right? And I said, but we went right and it was wrong. And I said, the next time next time we come to a fork in the road, if I take a decision again to go right, will you trust me? She said, no. In my head, I disqualified her straight away. Now, why did I say that? Because it proved exactly what I needed to know. You wouldn't trust my leadership. You're waiting for a mistake for me to finish, and then you won't trust me again. So you don't have to ask somebody submission questions. Do you understand? I don't have to ask submission questions. I can ask other questions around that. See, somebody's laughing because it's the reality. The reality is, if you trust my leadership, that one mistake wouldn't have cancelled your trust in my leadership. The reality is you don't trust my leadership, and that's okay. And I say this to men all the time. There are women out here who will love you but not respect you, and you should never marry them. Because respect is the biggest thing as a man that you need. If she doesn't respect you, I can guarantee you it will come to a point in that relationship, the disrespect's about to start. No matter how much she loves you, the respect's got to be there. And when a woman doesn't respect you, I'm telling you, it will end in fireworks and in flames, and it goes down, right? So love is cool, but for us as men, what we require from women is respect. And I can say it again, there are many women out there that will love you, but the women that respect you, those are the ones you need to be looking at, because that person will trust you, even in the times where they feel like, oh, I don't know, let me just trust him. Let me trust him and go forward. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's for that aspect, for us as men, that's what's really important. Because as a leader, when you're taking decisions, you're not always going to get things right. When I look at my parents and some of the things they've said to me, I'm looking at my dad like, bro, that was definitely wrong. Like, yo, bro, that was definitely wrong, right? But still, when I was a young kid, I had to trust him. I'm not saying a woman is a kid, but I'm just kind of giving an example. I had to trust his leadership, right? As I got older, now I come to him and be like, look, I know I can now, I now have knowledge and understanding. I now can take information, I can spit it out, chew it out, whatever. But now, because I've spent time with him, I can go, okay, look, Dad, what's your thoughts on this? Do you know what's so funny? Let me give you an example what I mean by this, right? When I was younger, I was a rebel. I'm still a rebel now, but I'm more of a rebel, right? So when I dated any girl, I would never go to him and ask him his opinion. But somehow, some way, he would have a conversation when I dated a girl, whenever I dated a girl, and he might tell me, listen, bro, like, son, I don't know, just watch out for this. And I'm like, oh, Dad, allow it, man, come on, man. And every single time he was right. And the funny thing was, in the end, I was like, you know what? As I got older, I realized I don't need to be fighting this guy. Let me just ask his opinion. Let me just see what he says, and take into considering what it was, right? And sometimes he was right, and sometimes it was wrong. But the reality was, I had to trust the decision that he made. I have to trust the decision I make. But if it came down to it, if my dad said, "Listen, look, this is what the family was doing," like if I'm talking about the family as an organization, as a family, if he had told me we have to go this way, I would have gone that way, right? Because in the end, that'd be my dad. Now, of course, as I'm older, I have my own decision making. I don't have to listen to him the same way. I live my own life, etc., etc. What I'm saying is that not every decision someone makes is going to be correct. Not every decision someone takes, you're going to like it. Not every single decision someone does will end in the result that both parties even really wanted. But will you trust that person to be able to make a decision again? That's the key question. You know what I mean? That's going to be the key question. So that's why I said you don't have to ask a submission question. I need not. I only go by, how do you talk to me? What tone do you use? If I am wrong, how did you handle that? If I didn't get it right, how did you handle it? You know what I mean? And I think then you can make those kind of deductions in terms of whether this person will follow you or not. Do you know what I mean? Or etc. etc. You know what I mean? So yeah, you need not to ask the submission question. I agree. Sam, you're laughing, so I loved it. Go on. Sammy, talk to us. Enlighten us.
My only question is, you gave the example of you wanted to go to the right and the friend or the lady wanted to go to the left. And then you ask her, you said you make the final decision, you went to the right, then you ask her, would she follow you again? But she already didn't agree with you from the beginning, right? She didn't agree from the beginning, right? So it only makes sense that she would tell you, well, I'm not going to believe you the next time because I had a different opinion from yours, and maybe my opinion was the right word, right? So I wouldn't make a final decision based on that, because from the beginning she already didn't disagree with you, right? She didn't disagree. You wanted to go right, she wanted to go left, you ended up going right. For me, I'm not a man, but if I were a man, I would focus on, okay, so when you decided to take the right, how did she go about it? Did she continue arguing about it, or did she just let you do your thing? And I would probably kind of just watch for her attitude at that moment, instead of like be like, okay, when I ask her that next question, if she doesn't answer the way I want, that means we're done, because she already was not agreeing with you. I'm just saying, as a woman, sometimes you want to be heard.
So that's there is no problem with disagreement. I said this, and I think if you ask any of the fellas on here, we're not expecting every decision that we take that there's going to be a unison, because there's going to be decisions that you will disagree with, which is fine. Disagreement is never an issue. It's how you disagree. And also, the key point of the example was that I took a decision to go right. I was wrong. And if I come back to the position of leadership to take another decision, at this point now, would you choose to go the same way with me? Would you submit to that? She said, no, no. And that's when I knew that the person wouldn't trust my leadership. Because what I'm asking is, if I'm at a point where I'm wrong and I go to take another decision, will you back me on that decision? That's what I'm asking. If somebody won't back you on that decision just because you made one mistake, that's what I was trying to highlight. That's one characteristic. It's not all. It's one characteristic that you don't need to be in that space, because that person doesn't trust you. It's not about them disagreeing. We're going to disagree.
Okay.
Inevitably, as a human being, you have your own way of looking at things. I have my own way of looking at things, and you're going to disagree with me. I expect you to, because you see things differently to me as a woman, and I see things differently to you as a man. I expect you to see things differently to me. So I expect there's going to be disagreements, and there are going to be arguments, of course. It's about how we disagree, how we also fight. I think Sean was kind of saying this, and Corey was saying this. How do we fight? That's what's really important. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So when I was highlighting that issue, it wasn't necessarily about her disagreeing. It was more about the fact that if I was to make a decision, I got it wrong. If I go to make another decision, does that mean that now you're not going to trust my decision making? And when the person was like, I'm going left next time, the person disregarded me completely. Now I was like, oh, okay, now I know. It's not a beef to them. It just means that you don't trust my leadership. Because I can guarantee you, if she met someone else who she really trusted, she would have gone right again. But for me, because sometimes it's not about the person doesn't trust. Sometimes it's just you. They don't trust you, and that's okay. That's why I said about having respect of people, and having respect of people, that people will follow you. Look, how many times have I apologized on this channel? 3 or 4 times I've done apologies. People still come back. Why? Because they trust me. Do you understand? But if they don't trust me, some people have already said to me, they're not coming back. I don't like what Kodra does. They're not coming back. They don't trust me. They go away. It's the same thing in relationship. That's what I wanted to highlight. But Corey wants to say something. Jump in it, Corey, and then I'll let Sam come in.
Yeah. So I'm just talking about like team and leadership. You know, it can be damaging. I'm not saying this is for anyone in particular, but as a man, if you consider yourself to be a leader, if you show any type of areas of timid in your leadership, like you're second guessing yourself before you even make a decision, a woman can see that. A woman can see that, and that's what's going to cause that doubt in your leadership. There's nothing wrong with getting things wrong. I'm just saying this stuff to follow up what you were saying, Coach O. There's nothing wrong with being wrong in a leadership role, but the important piece there is accountability. Do you show accountability for your wrong, or do you realize, or do you blame something else besides yourself for making that decision? When you have a partner and you're having those discussions as far as to go left or to go right, can you hear me? Okay. You're making those decisions to go left or go right. You know, if you make the decision, it's the incorrect decision. You go to your partner and say, you know what, I made this decision based upon this, this, and this. It ended up being the wrong decision, but you know, I still stand by it. Or you can say, well, I realized error of my ways. But I think giving some meat to why you decide to do things one way or another also helps your partner to understand you better. Yeah. And to see, okay, what you said was logical. It made sense, but it just didn't work out in our favor. So one, taking accountability and also being aware of the consequences. The bigger the consequences, the more you need to take the option. I mean, the situation more seriously. And I think that's something that's not being talked about enough, you know, as far as the male leadership role. When we show that, when we display that leadership aspect to us, it will allow a woman to kind of sit back and kind of pay attention. And you want a woman to give you that vibe that like they're paying attention to you. And, you know, if you're successful in those attempts of being a leader, then she will start to trust more and more. You know, as men, we will gain that trust more and more each day, as we should. If everything we're doing is for naught, and it's just she's not paying attention to it, or she doesn't value those things, then it's time to leave. It's time to leave. So one woman that's going to value my leadership as well as me as a person. So yeah.
Bars. Yeah, I love that. Any other thoughts on that, guys? And thoughts? Do you go for it, Sean?
Yeah, no, I think that you see, and this just having this dialogue back and forth sets the stage for how, because you see there's different opinions, you know, from between amongst the men and the women about how it should be handled, right? So that's going to give me some information. Now, depending on the man and how much patience he has or how much willingness he has to work and be able to, you know, be collaborative together with the woman in the relationship will give you options, right? So you can see, is this somebody that I can work with? Is this somebody that I feel like I'm comfortable submitting to? You know, if you don't, then you won't. And then the same for him, you know. It could be a topic, and I might tell you, this is a lot of negotiation we're having here, and I just, you know, I'm going to spare us. And I think we need to, that's why I personally feel like the conversations need to be had, because they're going to set the stage for how things are going to likely play out, right? Because if you tussling with me just at the mere thought of talking about submission, then when it comes down to really doing it, you ain't going to want to do it. You know, whether it's you don't feel comfortable submitting to me personally, or you just are somebody that does not like to submit. And I don't mean you, Sam. I just mean the universal you, right? Well, exactly. So I think like that's another thing. And for me, that's very important. And I will quickly, you know, set my sails into a different shore, because if there's too much push and pull on some things, yes, AW, I do like to debate. I like to have a healthy debate. It does, you know, entertain me. I enjoy that. But if we got to debate everything, if we're going to be debating how we navigate our relationships, then for me, that's too much, because I know it's just going to be future, you know, it's going to be future discord down the line. And I just like being on Little Black Book's Discord and talking to y'all who are on our Patreon. Silent, nice, you know, slick plug for the Patreon team for those of you that aren't already signed up. But, you know, listen, there's a time and a place. And I think that's the place for it. But in our relationship, we should be able to talk. We should be able to, you know, work things out in a very calm, cool, and collected manner. And if we can't do it, then maybe we're just not best suited for one another. And I think sometimes we have to do that more of trying to sell the person on our idea.
Absolutely, bro. You know, and to be honest, like I said, a lot of the stuff we're talking about, you will see it in the behaviors anyway. If you spend enough time with somebody, you'll see what kind of behaviors they have. And again, it's not necessarily that it's wrong; it just might not be right for you. You know what I mean? And you'll see this in very little things. You know, you'll see it in your everyday interactions. You know, you'll see it in how you guys discuss certain topics that come up. You will see it how you have to take small little decisions, even asking to where you want to go and eat. You'll see it in that. You'll see it in so many little things, because how you are, you can't hide it for very long. Do you know what I mean? Like how you truly are when it comes to whether you're collaborative or whether you're a person that likes to take more of a leadership role. If you like to take more of a backseat kind of thing, if you're more assertive, it will come out in your everyday behavior. So you won't be able to say I didn't know, because you will see it. You know what I mean? Like you will see it, and that's why I said that. You know, you will know when a person really respects you, especially from my perspective, in terms of how I see it. People ask you questions. Like, look, listen. People, when people respect me on this channel, right? They ask my opinion. People will message me and say, "Bro, what's your opinion on this?" Do you know why? Because they respect my opinion. Do you know what I'm saying? So if if your partner never asks you what your thoughts are on the thing, more than likely they probably don't respect your opinion on it. You are not the expert on it. You're not close to having knowledge on it. You ain't got no wisdom on it. That's why they're not asking you, right? More than likely. I'm not saying always, because sometimes people can be fearful. That's why they're asking. But the reality is, if you had some expertise in a particular area, you don't ask. You know what I'm saying? And I would be a foolish leader. And this is where I think for women, I agree with you. I would be a foolish leader to lead in a way where if I don't know, I don't ask you if you know. That makes no that for me is madness. And that is what we call conceited leadership, where someone is prideful and they're so rooted in their own self and ego that they only can see themselves. That's not the kind of leadership we're promoting here. We don't want any lady going after that. Please don't, those kind of men. And you can see that because the way that they interact with you, the way they take decisions, you will see that in your relationship. You know what I mean? As a person, as a leader, I'm aware there are weaknesses. There are things I do not know. And listen, if my wife knows it, fantastic. Because shoot, you know what I mean? I always tell her, listen, look, my organizational skills ain't great. So if I meet a girl that's got organizational skills, baby, don't complain. I need you to organize, because that's your skill. That's your strength area. Okay. Don't come and tell me now that men need to be men to be men. Baby, this is my weakness area. Help me. Okay. Help me. Like Kevin Hart said. But you know, so I think we can all be open into that particular aspect as well. All right, let's jump into this main topic, because it's been a good hour and we've spoken some good conversation. I like the talk, and I think that was a really good conversation. Civilized. I can tell people are civilized here and diplomatic on this channel, so we appreciate you. Let's get into this main conversation now. So we're talking about, can men tell women the truth? But actually, also, we're going to switch it around slightly. We're going to ask a question: can women tell men the truth? And since we've got Sam on board here, it's gonna be interesting. Okay, so we can get her perspective. Sam,
Yes.
as a lady, tell us, from your experience, do you feel like men can handle the truth on women?
From my experience, the answer is often no.
Oh,
Very often, no. Very often. And I'm going to say why based on my experience. I think that a lot of men, and I don't like to generalize, but for the context of this discussion, I will, based on my experiences. A lot of men are extremely confident, but also extremely emotional. And because they want to appear to be a certain way, as soon as you tell them something that may not be the way that they see themselves, they will deny it, and they will really make it something that it does not need to be. I think that I do feel that way probably because of the background of most of the people that I've been, and it's not even necessarily in relationship, but like just the people I've been talking to, being of African descent, I feel like a lot of, once again, I'm generalizing, a lot of African men and sometimes even African American men, when you have certain things that you want to tell them in certain area, the reception is difficult. Based on my experience, it has been difficult. Let me know if you have more questions or more details, and I can maybe
I guess boys, what's your thoughts to what Sammy has said before I let her continue? What's your thoughts? Do you agree with what she says? Do you agree what she's saying? Corey, do you agree? Like, it's hard for women to tell men the truth?
No, I disagree.
Okay.
I think it resembles more of like what women say as far as being treated like every other woman. It's not a cookie cutter type of way. You have to really understand how that woman communicates, how that woman is who she is, and then kind of be able to speak to that. Same thing with men. You have to understand how men receive communication. Especially if it's bad news or something that maybe come off with a hint of negativity. It's all about knowing how to speak to that man. Once that's done, I think once you understand that, I think you can tell a man anything and he'll be able to receive it well.
Sean?
So it's, can we tell women the truth, right?
No, they're saying can a woman tell the truth? She said that from her experience, no. Women can't tell us the truth.
Oh, so women can't tell us the truth.
Yeah.
I mean, it's obviously a general topic. So if I'm going to generalize, I'm going to say most men can take the truth, right? Doesn't mean I'm going to be happy about it, but I think we do a slightly better job of handling the truth and being able to digest what you think. Now, it also depends on how it's packaged, because men, we do have a sensitivity towards tone. We have a sensitivity towards the way you talk to us. So if it's packaged in a very nasty way, then yeah, it's not going to be met with, it's not going to be received well. But if you respectfully say, hey, listen, I don't like this, or this is what I want you to do, I think generally men can be told the truth.
Sammy?
Yeah.
The men have disagreed. But you said from your experience, what have you experienced then in terms of you telling the truth? Like, how have you experienced you telling the truth and it's not come out the way it's not been received the way that it needed to receive from the men?
So it's been both from my experience and, like, for example, friends' experience. I'm going to give an experience from a friend of mine.
Cool.
Into the relationship and certain things that she would like to receive from a man, a friend of mine, a man, even though she's really trying to tell him what she's looking for, he is reluctant to listen to her needs because he thinks that he already has it all figured out. For me, that is an example, that is a flagrant example where someone is telling you whatever you're doing, it's not cursing it. But the man is so set up in his ways that he's not able to listen to her. And she ended up ending the relationship because she was not fulfilled within the relationship, but mostly because he was not willing to hear her out. And actually, it's when she ended the relationship that the gentleman was now more willing to
receptive.
It was more receptive, but she had to cut the cord. And for me, I was like, what did she need to do all that for you to listen? Right? You could have listened to it while in the relationship and make those efforts. And I feel like in a lot of relationships that I've heard, that I've not heard, but like observed, I feel like when a man tells a woman, hey, I don't like this about you, or I need you to cook more, I need you to do more of this or more of that, in general, when the women are more involved, they really care about their relationship, they will be more receptive. Like initially may not be easy to take the criticism, but because she loves a man, she has higher chances to do what is being asked. So yeah, that's what I've observed.
You know what? I'll have to agree with certain aspects of that. The reason why I said it because I've seen it firsthand, where some men will do exactly what you're saying. Like some men are they show up late. So if you're in the relationship with them and you're telling them things that are going wrong in the relationships and you're asking them to fix it or make an attempt to fix it and they don't, the mindset of those men, the conversations I've had with those guys, is that if it was really that bad, she wouldn't still be here. So they look at it from an aspect of you're still here, it shouldn't be that bad. But when you leave, that's when it computes. That's when it says, okay, oh, I must have really been messing up. Now let me see if I can get her back. Now let me see if I can fix it when it's already too late. So there's a difference between what men do and what women do in a relationship. Some men, I will say that in a relationship, will arrive late to the conclusion that we need to step up and do something right.
That's fair. Sean?
Sometimes I guess and this channel and social media operates as in sometimes as a kind of like a microcosm, right? But I just think of the instances when we talk about topics, right? And we talk about when in the instances when we've had, well, what do women want from men? And how do women want to be pleased? And, we've talked about things like that on this channel. And we've had some ladies come up and tell us their thoughts, and we've listened and we've heard the feedback and, we kind of move on. And it's not to say there's never a disagreement or a challenge, sure. But just universally, we hear y'all out. Now, in a lot of instances, when we say what we want from women, or we start getting on certain topics, we talk about accountability, we talk about submission, what we want, we get a lot of pushback, So that's kind of a part of where my opinion is formed, because this is how things, kind of play out universally. And I think, we get challenged. Well, the women y'all choose, and when you want this, and what if I'm tired? And, when we start listing things, there's always these ready-made reasons why what we're looking for or what we're asking for is not reasonable. So again, it's not to say every woman all the time, but just collectively, we see a little bit more resistance on this side when we tell y'all what we want, or we tell you something we don't like. So that's a little background into what kind of forms my opinion. So I think about the men that are here on this panel. I think about men that I know, right, that are in my friendship circle. And I know, how we operate. No, it's not to say every guy I know and I'm perfect. No, but I just know that for the most part, if you come to me in a respectful way, hey, listen, this is what I want, or this is something that I could use more from you. If it's within my power and it's something that you are looking for from me, I'm going to want to do that for you. I'm going to want you to be happy. I'm going to want you to be, fulfilled in whatever way we're talking about. So that's all.
So I think I'm going to put the title "Some," because I've definitely seen stuff hit the fan. I've definitely seen stuff hit the fan from women telling men that truth. I'll be honest with you. Quote unquote, even just small things like a man approaching a woman and she's saying, "I'm not interested," and it being polite and seeing that nigga go off. So I know for sure that some men, broken egos, fragile, can't handle truths. I absolutely agree, right? So I'm not gonna say no. I'm gonna say there are some men who generally cannot handle the truth, right? And usually I would say this too. Those men who can't handle the truth, you really shouldn't be dating them, because the next thing is also what happens after is normally violence. So I'll be honest with you. Those men usually are very dangerous. So they're in a specific bracket. I put those particular men on a general basis. In terms of, can women tell men the truth? I think this is a really interesting topic, because I think there are sensitivities on both sides for both men and women that I feel that need a certain way of communication. So I've seen the chat how ladies talking about how women have to fake orgasms. And you know what? I'll give it to you. I'll say, do you know what? You're right. There are generations upon generations of women having to fake orgasms. But what hasn't been discussed is how it gets back on the other end. If I was to say some of you don't be putting in no effort, if I was to say, we don't talk about this, right? See, we don't talk about this. We only talk about women not orgasm, but we don't talk about the fact that just because I can orgasm, I may not have had a good time. Let's not talk about the fact that if sometimes we say get on top, you do 2 minutes, you're tired, and you say come back, I need to put back into work. We don't talk about some of this stuff, right? But if we did, there'll be some pushback, and I would understand, because it's an area of sensitivity for women. The same way I think there's an area of sensitivity for men in certain areas when it comes to telling certain truths. I also realize that the way that we communicate some of these truths, it's the way that certain information, for instance, I think for us as men, I'll be honest with you, sometimes we can escalate a situation more than it actually is. But I also feel like sometimes women can minimalize situations when they're actually telling the truth. Let me give you an example, right? I remember I remember a situation where a girl was telling a guy that I know, but I knew this full story because I was there. And she was explaining what happened that night where she ended up kissing a guy. But she explained it as, we were on a dance floor, and like he turned and I kissed him. Now, of course, she's saying it that way because, she doesn't want things to escalate. The reality was she wasn't telling the full truth. He now gets vexed because he's like, I don't believe that's the full truth. And I was like, in my head, I understand. Sometimes women think they're trying to save us by minimalizing, the same way men do to women. They minimalize certain information because they believe the other party can't handle the truth. I'm not saying there isn't truth to that. I'm saying that I believe on both sides, I think there is an aspect of, I don't believe you can handle this. I think there's a little bit of projection, as well as obviously reality from both parties coming from experience. Because I think all men here have experience saying, we've told the truth before, we've done it on this channel, and it blows up. It blows up in your face. You get called misogynist, you get called narcissist, you get called Kevin Samuels, you get called all types of labels when you start telling the truth. And I'm sure for women too, when they come and tell the truth to us, they start to realize that sometimes your physical safety can be can be questioned here. Your physical safety can be in question. There are aspects where a man can pop off and get angry. There are aspects where, you've told the truth and you've been lambasted for it, or, the consequences have been far greater than actually what you've told. I genuinely do believe that happens on both sides. I feel like both parties need to learn how to communicate certain truths because of the sensitivities on both sides. Sam, jump back in for me. What's your thoughts?
I agree. I do agree that some topics are very sensitive, but I do also think that sometimes it doesn't even matter how you say it. The initial reaction, whenever it's something that is negative, is always going to be negative. Like when it's something you don't want to hear, even if the person is saying it nicely, you're going to be in your feelings initially, right? But I felt that a lot of women, especially when it comes to relationship, a woman that wants a relationship to work is most of the time going to probably be angry, but take a step back and eventually start working on it. Whereas I've seen a lot of men not listening and waiting until the lady is like totally checked out before now they're asking, what is it that I can do? Well, she's been telling you the entire relationship and you did not want to listen. But I do agree with you, Kojo, but I do feel that certain topics, if you're sensitive about it, the initial reaction, it doesn't matter how it comes. Well, it does matter, right? Because whenever you're going to go back and think about the conversation, it will make you feel good to know that the person came at you as nicely as they could, but the reaction is still going to be bad, even if you come in super nice. I think it's just human nature for most. But
I'm sorry. I
no, you
want to ask you for an example. Like, you give an example of something negative that you would give to a man, or that you feel that he will take negatively, no matter how it's being said.
For example, if I am dating you, I've had situation when I was younger, and I wanted to do certain things. I wanted to be able to travel with my partner, and my partner just didn't like to travel. That was not something that he wanted to do. And every time I would say, like, that's what I like to do. I don't like to do a lot of things, but this is something that's important to me. And on the other side, the partner at the time want like to go, for example, to the club. I'm a homebody. I'd rather stay home, but I would go to the club with him so that he could feel that I'm trying to share some of the things that he likes to do, right? But at some point, I was like, well, the stuff I like to do, he doesn't like to do. So if I tell you I want to do those things, and I'm even trying to compromise and say, hey, like once a year, can we go to XX place? And you're still not able to make it happen because you don't want to, not even because you can't, but because you don't want to. There's nothing I can do.
Okay, that's true to that. I think a decision has to be made, though, if that's going to be a deal breaker. So if you're my woman and you're telling me like to travel all the time and I don't like to travel, I gotta ask myself if that's going to be a deal breaker. Is this going to be something that's going to be brought up every 3 months? You want to go somewhere every 3 months, or is it a once a year thing that I have to deal with? A lot of that goes into play. I'm just using traveling. Of course, I love to travel too, but I'm just using that as an example. If it's something I did not like to do, I have to weigh those pros and cons as far as like, do I want this to be a continuous thing in a relationship? So it may be something negative, but it may be something that a decision has to be made on in the long run anyway, as far as if we're going to be compatible or not. I think that may be a difficult decision to have, difficult conversation to have with your partner, or just with yourself, coming to terms with it. But yeah, situations like that, yeah, it's going to make a decision has to be made. Bottom line.
Yeah. And I mean, just to also say, my experience in dating has been different because I've been encouraged very young to date a lot of men. And where I'm from, dating a lot of men does not necessarily means like being like sexually involved, but I've been taught to have a lot of men, to have a lot of options. So for me, until the time that I got married, it was nothing to me to say, well, we don't like the same thing, bye. It was very encouraged from my family members, especially from my mom, aunts. They told me, as a young woman, you want to have as many options as you can, and then you can just make your pick. So
yeah, I mean, I get that, because I mean, you have to know what you like. The
yeah.
only way you know what you like is by having a little bit of variety of what's coming at you. You realize, hey, I like men who talk to me like this, or I like men who make decisions like that. So you be able to put all that together and then get your ideal man in your head. It may not be perfection, may not get everything you want, but as close to it as possible. You'll know what that is.
Yeah.
Sean, any input? You on anything? Can women tell the men the truth? I do think it's interesting because, like I said, I think if I take my own experiences, there have been times where I've not liked that truth. You know what I mean? I remember, and shout out to like one of my early girlfriends. One of them, she used to tell me the truth on everything. I ain't gonna lie to you, and it used to jar me. But one thing I loved was that I could always trust whatever she said because she'd always tell the truth. You know what I mean? So, it's not every time I'm gonna be like ecstatic or over the moon about the truth that you're telling me. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. but And as well, look, and also want to say as well, just because you told the truth does not mean the thing is solved. Like I because sometimes I love you ladies, y'all be telling the truth, but you thinking the consequences have changed. The consequences have not changed. The truth has been told, the consequences are now coming. You've told the truth and we appreciate you for that. Okay, whereas maybe I might have lied, but either way, consequences are still coming. Okay, because the truth that you told about, there has to be a consequence because of the action that was done. But absolutely love, I definitely trust somebody who will tell the truth rather than try to lie the situation through. Do you know what I mean? Can we always handle the truth? I mean, not always, and like I said, I think it takes, you know, Felicia said, can she take as much truth as she dished out? I think she was pretty decent at taking the truth away as well. In some aspects. Again, I think also as well, I think, and maybe this is a part as well, I think in experience in terms of telling truths, and maybe this is when I was younger, so I'm not going to talk about now, maybe much more younger. The truths that were the hardest to swallow from the other side is when you start to make people feel inconvenienced. I'm gonna give you an example. This is when we're young. Like for instance, if you say something like, "Hey, your best friend, who's a guy, or a good friend, yeah, he's a snake," then suddenly you become the bad guy. You become in fact, we do it even now, actually. You become insecure. You become a person, like we were doing the dilemma, just the dilemma the other day. We did the dilemma the other day. We tell the truth about it. Don't go and see him. You become insecure. You become controlling. You become this. So even though when we do tell the truth, actually, the consequences that we get sometimes as men when we're telling the truth is that we get labeled. We get labeled insecure. We get labeled controlling. We get labeled gay Samuels, and etc. Right? So I feel like sometimes, that's where we can suffer too. But I'm still on the part that I do believe that some men can't handle the truth. I do understand that. Go for it, Sean. You want to add?
Yeah, and I think we've talked about this too, right? It's how you say what you have to say. I think that's the biggest part of it. It's just like and it's the same from men to women, right? It's how we say it, right? We saw on the men's panel that Bruiser had some great points, and then he began to say certain things in a particular way and diminish women to an extent, talk about single mothers, and that from that point on, he was not able to be heard. And I think again, it just comes back to the way you speak and what are the words that you say and what are you saying. So I think that definitely goes a long way for us to be receptive to the truth. But I can definitely say there's men out there that can't handle it, right? And that's a prime example of women who are flirted with by a man and are really just not interested, and they try to be as respectful as possible. And there's guys out there that just don't take that rejection very well. Or you try to tell a man something that you want or you're looking for, and it's met with some level of resistance. So I don't think universally every man can accept truth from a woman. So I don't want anyone to think that that's my position. I just happen to believe we're a little more likely to receive it. And again, I think we talk about double standards sometimes, and double standards are in place for a reason. And I think that when you think about men and how we're designed to be ultimately, right, we're designed to be the doers in a lot of sense. We are more physically strong across the board, right? We are looked at for the most part from women to take care of. So our sensitivity level for the most part has to be lessened. And again, it's not to say men don't have an ego and that men are not sensitive, because we are, but you have to know exactly, and that's where it comes to, navigating our relationship the right way. And me enough to know what's going to get the best out of me, or what's going to get the best outcome out of me. If there's something you want, how do you go about navigating that the right way? right? You may have the right idea, like this is what I want Sean to do, but your execution can just put it all to shambles, right? You know, if you start piling on things and you're upset because I'm leaving socks out, or you're upset about whatever, you fill in the blanks, and then you start piling it on and adding a bunch of other things where you're late all the time and you're this and your socks are out, I'm not going to hear you. You know, I'm just not going to hear you. And you honestly might be frustrated, and there may be truth in some of the things that you are complaining about. But if you don't pick the moment, if you don't choose the way in which you address it, then it's not going to be met well, right? So I think sometimes, you know, ladies will, out of frustration, pile on, right? You know, they may see something that their man is doing, they haven't addressed it, they're in their mind, they're like, you know, I don't like those socks, or you know, whatever the issue is for you, whatever it might be. And then now it's thing 1, thing 2, and thing 3 all together. Boom. And now you laid it on to us. And then you're like, well, I'm super frustrated, and now these are all the things. You might not get the best outcome. I'm telling you, from somebody like me, I might be like, well, listen, I'm paying the bills, so I just need you to relax, you know? And then now we have an argument. Now, today I've learned that's not the right approach. We don't want to box. But I say that to say, you also need to choose your timing. You need to choose that moment, right? And women, there's some great women that are out there that are really good at doing that, right? Doing it the right way and choosing their moments and picking their battles. What's up, V?
What's up, V? Welcome to Convo, V. Welcome.
Hey, V.
Hello.
Yeah, so I was gonna piggyback off what Sean is saying too, man. When it comes to that pile up that Sean is talking about, yeah, it's one thing to get your man to listen, but piling up, it's hard to listen to a pile up, because the immediate thought that comes into our heads is, okay, it seems like I can't get anything right, or I can't do anything right. And if we get that thought in our head, we start to think, okay, well, why am I here? You don't want your man thinking that. You don't want your man thinking, why are you here? Because those are questions that are left in his head to answer for himself. Because he's not going to ask you those questions. He's going to try to answer those questions himself. And that's a dangerous place to be, left alone with your thoughts about who you are, what you mean to your woman. That should be a no-brainer. But when you have to think about it, that causes problems. So when taking information like that, yeah, this is going to be difficult to process, because it's going to deflate. So I'm like, you know, hey, here I am thinking that, you know, I'm this great man for you, and I'm doing things. I'm investing in you. I'm spending all this time. I'm giving me my energy, and you're coming back to me and telling me I can't do this right. I'm not doing that right. When are you gonna start doing this? When are you gonna start like, you have a problem with who I am as a man. When you list like 3 to 4 different things or more to a man, it's like, okay, what are we doing? You know, but like Sean's saying, like giving that time, you know, timing it right, say something here and then give them an opportunity. It's so important to give people the opportunity to give you that change that you're looking for. Or if they're willing to do that change themselves, you know, they have to be willing to. That's the big part. They're not going to change just because you want them to change. They have to be willing to make those character changes themselves. But give them a realistic opportunity to make those changes. If you see that there has been effort being put in, you know, nothing wrong with applauding your partner. Nothing wrong with saying, hey, man, I see you trying in this area. Not quite where I want you to be yet, but I see you making strides. Nothing wrong with that. And it gives him that sense that you are paying attention, that you do value what he's doing. But if you just saying what he's not doing all the time, they can wear on anybody, man or woman. They can just wear on you.
Yeah, do you know what? I'll be honest. I think when I was younger, I couldn't take as much truth as I can today. I'll be honest with you. I think that's an area of growth. I'll be honest with you. If I look at some of the past relationships, definitely probably couldn't take as much truth in regards to character, if you want to call it that. Definitely more sensitive when I was younger, way more sensitive. That's something I had to kind of mature and grow. And it comes with time. It comes with growth. It comes with maturity. It comes with, developing yourself as well. But definitely didn't take as much truth when I was younger. That being said, I think women were crueler when they were younger. Do you know what I mean? Like, so as much as I think there's also, and this is again, it's not every woman, by the way. I wanna say that very, very clearly. I think also, and I always say this, it's like good girls meet bad boys and good boys meet bad girls. And I think this situation happens for a lot of people. Like when we're younger, when we was younger, I remember a situation like, okay, let's say truths are on the table. uh, telling me that you like another guy to my face is not a truth that really, it's a truth. Don't get it twisted. But now do you expect me not to react? Like, you know what I mean? Like, stuff like that. But and I think tact is a beautiful thing. And I think when you're younger, I think sometimes women think they're saying something with tact until you actually say it back to them what they actually said. Now, when I'm talking about when we're younger, not now, when we're younger. From my experience, it's not everybody. I'm not saying that everybody. I'm saying from my experience, that's what I experienced, right? So maybe my proclivity to being more empathic towards how I would deliver information to people to get them to see things, other person might not. They might be a little bit more rough around the edges. You know what I mean? And so sometimes, yes, my sensitivity when I was younger to, to truth would have been much more different to how it is now. So there is and again, and so I'm think of it point of view of, if a woman had met me and then grows up, she might have that in her head that men can't really take truths because she said truths and then it didn't go the way she wanted it to go. Then she might have that experience of that men can't handle truth, and I would understand that. Do you know what I mean? Because she would have had some certain experiences. So, I can be open to that particular thought as well. You know what I mean? Like, in that respect, So yeah, I definitely that. V, you haven't said anything, so I apologize. Jump into the conversation with us. Can women tell men the truth? Your experience, what have you seen, baby?
Most of the time, no, because y'all too sensitive. Based on, call it sensitive. I don't want to say like emotional, like in a bad connotation, like you guys were talking about the pileup. Yeah, they take it really, really personally. We have egos too. Women have egos as well, but most people's ego can't take true criticism, like you were stating. If I think another man looks good, I'm not gonna say anything. I'm just gonna right. I'm just gonna let it pass my view, act like I didn't see anything, and keep it moving, right? But because you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings or whatever. Doesn't mean I like the other person, but I just might think they're physically attractive, right? And I feel like sometimes the ego can't take it.
That's your example?
I'm
just saying that sounds like insecurity to me. I don't care if you, but it's the mindset of the man. I would have to say, because
it is insecurity. Yes.
Yeah, it's the mindset of the man. Like, one thing for sure, like if I consider myself to be a handsome guy, I consider myself to be a handsome guy. But if another guy comes along, I don't consider myself to be the only handsome guy in the world. So you're going to pay attention. You're going to see things, just by drawing the line of how far you're going to go with it. If you're embarrassing yourself and been embarrassing me when he passed by, drooling all over him, everything, that's something different. But if you can control yourself and say, okay, hey man, he's a handsome guy. I've done that. I can look at a woman and say, hey, she's beautiful. And I should be able to do that without there being any type of insecurity from my woman and saying, hey, you think she's beautiful? What about me? It shouldn't be that at all. I think when we hold all of that in, that it's those thoughts about cheating, because it's all balled in. Let's be free with our thoughts. Let's say how we truly feel. Doesn't mean that we want them. Doesn't mean we want to bed them. Just say that they look good, or they look good in those jeans, and just keep it at that. It don't have to be more than that. But yeah, I get what you're saying. Some men can be insecure about things. You have to baby, you have to hold hand. And I definitely understand that there is a demographic of men that are out there who are like that. but I can identify with that.
I know, Corey, it's the voice. You on point. You're not worried about anybody else in the room. Right?
At all.
I was also thinking about the whole Nikki Giovanni video where it says lie to me. Like you said, if you had a long, hard day, you're tired, you've been getting criticized all day at work, sometimes you just want, it's called charm, niceties to make you feel good. The food you made, just an example, could be, I've ran into people where they've made something to eat and it might not be all that great. All right. But you eat it and you enjoy it because they took the time and effort to make it. So it just depends. Sometimes you just want to be nice to someone because they've had a long day. So it can go both ways.
Yeah. You know, I mean, an ego stroke is nothing wrong with ego stroke, you know, both ways. It's promoting the health in your relationship, to be honest with you. I wouldn't even consider to be something that's negative. You're promoting the health in your relationship because positive reinforcement is needed as human beings in general. We have to know we're doing something right. We have to know that what we're doing is we're going in the direction. And we feel like we don't hear that, then we change something that you feel was perfectly fine. And then you wonder what's going on. Why are you changing? Because you're giving the reinforcement, those words of affirmation that's needed. I think that's a whole different lie. But I think that is one of the 5 love languages that everyone needs. I don't care where it fits, you want to need those words of affirmation. So yeah, positive reinforcement, ain't nothing wrong with that.
Totally agree.
I'm hearing you. I'm definitely hearing you. No, I'm definitely hearing you. You know, I'm agreeing with you too. Do you know what I mean? And I'm trying to bring some balance. You know, in terms of like that there is the other side. You know what I'm saying? And it's like I said, you said it around, Corey. It was insecurity. You know what I mean? There was a lot of insecurity, and that's what makes taking the truth very difficult. You know what I mean? Insecurity. You know what I mean? To balance the other side. So when you're not receiving the critique very well, it's the insecurity that is not allowing the truth to be told. And when I was younger, I was an insecure lad. I'll be honest with you. You know, if it don't even sound right, I'm gonna be offended. You know what I mean? I might not necessarily be screaming from the hilts or anything like that, but you know, yeah, I wouldn't say that I was always the best receiver of some of the truths that may have come my way at the point in time. And I wouldn't say that's always that it was poor delivery. I'd say that's like what was being said. It was painful. Some of the things were painful, I'll be honest with you, know? So yeah, sometimes it's just that information is painful when you know, it's hard to handle. And sometimes I think also as well, women being sensitive too, it's not necessarily that we've even reacted angry. I think seeing someone upset, you don't want to have to tell the person that information again. You know what I mean? So yeah, it can be like that, you know.
And so ladies, I have a question for the ladies. I want to know, what do you guys think? How many times do you have to tell a man something negative that you consider to be negative, such as a behavior trait or a character trait that he has, before you say, you know what, I'm done. I'm tired of this. I have to move on. How many times do you have to reinforce what you're saying?
Honestly and truthfully, I think women, I hear you guys talk about it all the time. It depends on how much you actually like care for that person or want to be with that person. You'll give them a lot more leeway and you will tell them way more times versus if you're truly done with this person and they're really working your nerves, they got one more time and they gotta go. So I think it depends on how much you like care about them or want to be with them, because women especially will let a lot of stuff ride from certain people depending on the history. Like I said, hate to say it, how attractive you think they are, how good they are in bed. There's different reasons people are letting stuff ride. So yeah.
Okay, cool. Sorry.
Go, Joe.
Y'all
wanted truth. Y'all wanted truth. Here we
go. I don't have a specific amount of time, but I will say it several times. I don't mind repeating myself, but when I get to I'm the type of person, I can repeat myself a lot, but when I get to my breaking point, like that's when I cannot go back. So I always say, be careful with me because I will give you many chances
Mhm.
to work on whatever you need to work on. But if you're playing with me, you will be very surprised. And usually those people were very surprised. And that's with everybody, men and women, friendship. I'll be very patient, but at some point, if I say I'm done, I'm done. And I'm not going to go back.
I hear that. I definitely hear that. I also think I'm gonna welcome Upper T Negro, goddess. But I also think as well, you know, I am some people have different ways of delivering information as well in the particular ways. Like I think when when I look at personality tests, I realize that, for instance, I get on really well with INFJs. INFJs have a very compassionate way of delivering information, which resonates with me because I'm also a compassionate communicator. So when I'm with INFJs, they find ways of delivering the information, harsh truth or whatever it is, in a particular way that can be received by the individual. Whereas I may struggle more with somebody who's a bit more direct, because that's just a natural way of doing it. Who's a bit more direct. So I think that's also a thing I've started to realize as well, that personality types and you know, different people's uh, uh, composition in terms of how they perceive how information can be delivered is key. You know what I mean? As well to interactions between people, because when people are, and that's what I'm saying, like you have to, and this is why when you're a partner, you have to try and the Bible says dwell with women according to knowledge. You know what I mean? Like you have to dwell with that person for a while to really understand, because they may have a way of delivering information. Like my last girlfriend had a very direct way of delivering information, and at first I was like, what the fuck? But when I actually sat down and spoke with her, and like we kind of got, I was like, I realized that a lot of the direct uh way of doing it, that's the way that she's used to just like kind of communicating. Do you know what I mean? She's not trying to break you, you know what I mean? But I had to get to know that first. Now there were some parts that were a bit mad, but I mean, in general, she wasn't trying to break me or trying to finish me. So after a while, I came round to that kind of understanding, and actually, we kind of rubbed off a little bit of each other. I learned to be a bit more direct, but also at the same time, she learned as well also take a bit of edge of her of her delivery, and I think that helps when you get to know somebody as well. So that's also important as well. So anybody's INFJ or INTJ, y'all, shout out to you guys. You lot are the bomb, and actually you're one of the rarest in the 16 matrix. So shout out to you guys. Upper Negro Goddess, you said you had a question you wanted to ask. Go for it. You're muted, Upper Negro Goddess.
Sorry.
Go first, right?
Yeah, I think you kind of addressed it, what I was about to ask you, because I was going to say, was it a miscommunication issue? Because sometimes you're just being forward and maybe the guy is more sensitive and you think because he's a male, he will be more, I don't know how you say it, especially if you go with guys that's like more out. I don't want to say like if you're sensitive, you're not alpha, but you know, like in the sense of
Roughneck.
alphaness that you get, yeah, not roughneck. Alpha is different from roughneck. It's guys that's never in the streets, but they're alpha. You know, everybody knows that, even the street guys. So when I say alpha, I'm speaking in those terms, and that's what I grew up around. That's what I was surrounded with. So when I got into the real world, outside of my own circle, dating became real hard, you know, because what I was brought up with and what I seen and what I was told I was gonna see was two different pictures. And in my personal case, like I started dating Caribbean men because they were more what I was told I was gonna get from American black men. Never seen it. To this day, I haven't seen it, you know. But when I say American black men, I guess it could go from like other nations too. But like I said, when it comes to certain things, like I don't want to have to sit here and explain to you. I expect you to know certain things, and I guess a communication barrier should be more. But I think when you're trying to date somebody, especially on the male aspect, if you really like the girl, maybe you let certain things slide instead of just being more honest. And then later on, like, oh, this is what I don't like. You know what I'm saying? Because she's only going to gradually, I'm only speaking from women's perspective, it's only going to gradually grow because you need to complain about it, you know? And my thing is, if you didn't say it in the beginning, don't tell me now, you know? Because you're not confused. You wasn't, you know, whatever. But a lot of men, they are, no matter if they West Indian, American, whatever you are, they can never sit here and be like, this is all me. I should have did this. I should have did that. Anytime I ask a man, like, can you talk about something without blaming women? They never can do it. I have yet to meet a man who could do that. So that was my question, which you kind of answered, but like I said, I would just like that part expanded on because I think that would help heal the gap between men and women. You understand? Because men do have to be more vocal and explain, like, okay, I understand you expect a certain thing or whatever you think is male toxic, whatever you feel it falls under, just explain to the women when she come at you that way. So y'all both can know, like, maybe I shouldn't take this no further. You know what I'm saying? So I just don't understand why men can't do that without blaming women. You know, like, take women out the equation and say, like, listen, as a man, I want to sit here and repackage what alpha male is, what assertiveness is as a male, what I feel women is doing that shouldn't be assertive, like things like that. That's what I was trying to touch on, which you kind of gave a little, you know, with your last story before I even got to say anything. So that's all I want to say, and I'm gonna get down.
Well, you don't have to get down. You're good. It's good to have
Okay.
you on board here. We want to hear different perspectives, and good to have the ladies on board as well. So just help me again. So the question you want us to answer, just quickly, just summarize the question again one more time.
Okay, like you just gave an example stating like how your girlfriend was like, your ex-girlfriend, I'm sorry, was more assertive than what you were accustomed to, you know? And like, so to take that example, did you tell her that in the very beginning of your courting, like, listen, I don't like that, you know what I'm saying? Or did you not say anything because maybe you're more of an introvert and you didn't want to push her away, you know what I'm saying? Because you like more than you didn't like about her, you know? And then when it goes bad, it turns into like all them things like you pushed away when as a man, because most women thinking men are gonna leave certain situations, you know? Women are more prone to put up with stuff. So I guess the short question I'm asking is like, why aren't men more assertive? If they can't be assertive, why won't they just say that instead of just saying, oh, she made me toxic, or she did this and she did that? Why can't we take accountability without involving women as men, especially Black men?
So to answer the question, I did let her know quite avidly the kind of communication that I require. Let me just mute you quick because it's got an echo. But yeah, I did let her know quite avidly what I expected from the communication. You know, had it been my first girlfriend or second girlfriend, maybe it would have been a different story. Yes, I would have been less inclined to have said something at the jump. I'd have waited to be reactive rather than proactive. But in this particular relationship, we had a whole bunch of conversations prior to entering into a relationship about what were the expectations and how we expected to communicate. And we had we had our red flags. We had our you know, things that I don't like. Like, I'm a person, I do not like insults. I hate them. Don't be insulting me. Don't be swearing at me. Those things I don't tolerate those things. So that's not the kind of relationship I require. Shouting and screaming and hollering, I don't require those things in relationships. We laid all of that information out. And so she knew that, you know. And you know, so when obviously she's far more direct than I'm used to, you know what I mean? We, you know, had some conversations around that. And we both came to a compromise that we can both work on our communication. I need to be a bit more direct. And then she got to the conclusion that, you know what, I can soften how I say things. Now, here's the thing. Though we came to that conclusion and compromise, uh, stuff hit the fan because some of the stuff that were red flags, she kept on doing. And so that's why the relationship actually came to an end. So there was communication. And this is why I always say as well that um, you can't. I would not when I say this. There are very few people that can do a Titanic U-turn in a relationship. If you're set in a particular way, you have to learn certain things, and at least have some development in certain areas. To then, when you get into a relationship, then you can turn certain things around. There are certain things that you do, even me, that I do, that get into a relationship. It's not about you turn that particular behavior. It's stuck with you, and you need to start to work on it before you get into a relationship. Um, Someone said you sounds like you had different boundaries. We didn't have different boundaries. It was, I would say, abusive. It's straight up what it was. Like, and that this is like I say it calmly because I've gone through it already, but it was abusive because there was other behaviors that were included with it. So it's not your usual one. This is not like, oh, we had different communications at thing. There were points of that, but there are other aspects where the person was intentionally now breaking the boundaries after several times being told. So that's why I said women too, the good women, you meet bad boys, the good guys, we meet bad women. And so both parties have these experiences. And so unfortunately, yes, we had to conclude the relationship. But yeah, I was very clear, I was very direct in terms of my communication. I was very patient, you know, I gave grace and room. Maybe too much grace, maybe too much grace, maybe too much room, you know what I mean? Maybe I was too accommodating. Not that I didn't say anything, I'm saying too accommodating until I let it go on too long. Like I gave too many chances, you know what I mean? So yes, there are many of us guys who can go through situations with women and don't blame women. You never hear me blame women now. It's that I chose her. She didn't choose. You know what I mean? Like I can't. You know what I mean? I missed the. I ignored the red flags. You hear me guys say it all the time. There are loads of men who will take accountability for what they enter into. You know what I mean? The men that don't take accountability and you're dating them, you got to take accountability for dating them. The same way I got to take accountability for dating people that are not the right person for me too. I got to ask the key questions as to why something in me was drawn to something in her. You know what I mean? And that's where I always take accountability, and I can't blame her because at the end of the day, I chose her. So anything that I'm looking at, I'm always looking at, sorry, why was I in that situation in the first place? And then why was I in it for so long? Why did I react in this particular way? I don't need to blame her. I do believe there are men that do blame women for everything. And I'll say again, dodge them. You don't need to be with them. They're dangerous people. If they can't be accountable, they can't see where they played a role in something, dodge them like the plague. You know what I mean? But, you know, I can say that in this particular instance, um, you know, uh, there was proper boundaries in place. Communication was spoken to. We had conversations. We spoke about what was expected several times, and several times we were flouted. Without going too deep, I've done a whole video on it anyway. But yeah, that's what I would say. But there are men there who will give you good boundaries and stuff. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, you know, there are goodies and baddies on both sides. I would say, you know. Um, it sucks to be a woman, though. I'm not gonna lie to you because I swear there's more men, but that's another conversation another day. I'd rather be a man. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's a scary world out there. These niggas are crazy. Okay. But yes, Opportunity Goddess. I hope that answers your question. I don't know if you wanted to fire anything back.
Oh yeah, just like I actually watch you because I like your perspective of things. So I know that you do take accountability. So I felt like you was the best person to ask this question to. But in general, Most men don't like to take accountability. They like to sit here and gaslight and redirect blame, and so I feel like in just moving forward in like most relationships, even in your case, like I feel like even though you set the boundary, you have to protect them. So once you didn't protect your boundaries, it's just like guys tell women all the time, like they just like to see what you gonna do if you do what you're not gonna, if you just say you don't gonna do, and it's a woman just the same. So but I don't feel like it's equal accountability on both sides. So I think like that's the biggest relationship problem. But I'm gonna go back on mute.
Before I let someone jump in, do you know what I find interesting? I think women assume that they're accountable, but they're not. Then they're just like men too. You're not accountable, and I'll tell you why. Because women use their emotions to justify actions as if that's what made them right in their actions. That's not accountability. Both men and women struggle with accountability. I'll be honest with you. I've seen it on both sides. I know we talk about it from the men manosphere, and they talk about how they are accountable. We can see a manosphere are not accountable. We can see directly because they're consistently complaining about the women. I'm like, why'd you keep dating them then? You know what I mean? Like, you're not accountable. But I've also seen on the other side that women also too struggle to be accountable because they use their emotions to justify the action. I felt justified in what I did because it's because I was feeling this way. You know what I mean? What I did has justification, so therefore I'm not wrong in what I did. But it's like, but if you have a pattern of behavior, who else is to blame? You know what I mean? Like it's the same thing I'm saying for the men and for the women. If a man keeps dating these bad women, I'm looking at you like, bro, why'd you keep dating these bad women? And if the woman keeps dating bad men, I'm like, well, baby, why'd you keep dating these bad men? Like, oh, because the men are just trash in this world. Oh, well, then the man also going to say the exact same thing. The women are trash in this world. Well, then if everyone's saying they're trash in this world, someone's got to take accountability. Guess what? Both parties got to take accountability, both men and women. And men make excuses for their behavior, right, by trying to displace or project or put it onto a woman, and women will say, listen, hey, it's how, you know what, I felt some type of way, that's what I did. Like I've literally heard, and this is it's a joke but it's real, and this is really what I've heard, and I've heard this on one or two occasions. A woman, a girl that I know cheated, right, and her justification was like, well, because he wasn't treating me right and I was at the end of my relationship and da 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 da. All right, cool. Like, all right, well, you were wrong, right? But you have to look at it from this point of view. It was the end of the relationship. It was coming towards the end of the relationship. He wasn't treating me right. You hear that all the time. Y'all are not accountable, just like the men. You know what I mean? But you use the excuse of I wasn't being treated right as to why I did what I did, instead of actually just being accountable. And we've learned this as we had a conversation with the ladies, which was a great conversation some months back, as to why they do that. They want us to understand the story and get to know why they did what they did, right? And so now I understand that, I get it. Do you know what I mean? So both parties, I'm telling you, if you follow them, okay, I've spoke to some ladies in their girl group and they are very accountable. This is why I don't agree with women not being accountable. There are women who are very accountable. I've been in relationship with women who, when they've done something, they're like, hey, that was my bad, I'm sorry. Like, yo. So I can tell you that on both sides, and I know some guys too will lie to the grave. They will not be accountable. They will not take what they did as being wrong. Like, on both sides, there are people that are crazy. Okay. Now the numbers may be skewed. Maybe, you know what I mean? Maybe there's more men than there is women. But either way, there's enough on both sides to make you scared. So that's what I would say. It's enough on both sides to be scared. Anyone else want to jump in and contribute towards this conversation? I think it's a very good conversation. I know it's skipped slightly, but anyone else want to add there? Sean or Corey or V?
I think Trey Mack asked a question that was pretty good about whether or not we feel that, kind of tied to the conversation, whether or not we feel like the same way women aren't being held accountable and not playing certain roles, do we think that men are being encouraged not to protect, profess, and provide, or are they not playing that role? And I said yes. So I know there are lots of men that actually protect, profess, and provide. That's what they do. But I think it's kind of like they're being encouraged, or either they feel like if they stand in the stance that they're not going to do any of that, that it's showing they're holding their boundaries and it's showing their masculinity. I've gone down a few rabbit holes where I watched one video where they were saying that women were more emotional than men. And they pretty much were convinced it was a group of men talking. And they were saying that the men were not as emotional, but they didn't count getting angry or depressed as an emotion. And I thought it was very, very strange. Like the brother in the bow tie that was here the other day. I'm not gonna lie, I almost came through the screen. The brother in the bow tie that was on the men's panel. It's like they have a set of talking points. They stand on them, and there's no reason to even have a conversation or try to communicate at that point. They have those talking points. That's what they're going to say. And one of the talking points is that if the women don't act right, they don't deserve to be protected, professed, or provided for. I haven't seen the men on this panel doing it, but I've seen a lot of men at least standing up on that stance. So I think that it's not that one side is more emotional and the other one isn't. I think a lot of people are just taking a stance and they're standing on it. They're not moving from that spot. And so the communication is just out the window. So.
Okay, so I'm gonna tap in here. I think that the question, as far as like, you know, men getting away from provide, profess, it wasn't it was a discussion. It's always been a discussion, but it didn't become a bigger discussion until the introduction of the high value man. When that was brought into the conversation, that's where everything kind of fell apart. So now every man walking around considers themselves to be a high value man. And if they consider themselves to be a high value man, they have to speak a certain way to women. They have to speak a certain way about women. It's rubbish. It really, really is. You can't get anywhere without communication. You can't get anywhere without your partner understanding you understanding your partner. It's never going to be a one-way street. Nothing in a relationship is one way. So to me, that's where I think a lot of that came into play, where it's a look at me, see what I have, see what I built, to see that I'm a high value man. But in all honesty, whether you're a high value man or high value woman, you're nothing until you're high value to me. If I don't get any high value from you, I don't care what you got. I don't care what you built. You know, you built this empire. Oh, wow, congratulations to you. You're not a high value to me until you're a high value to me. And I think a lot of women should enter relationships and dating in the same manner. Don't look at what a man has to determine his value to you. Determine his value to you by what he does for you. How does he inspire you? How does he motivate you? I mean, those things matter so much, because you can't spend someone else's money as long as they don't want you to. You know, you may have a good man I want to say good man, but you may have a man who will spend money on you day and night. But if he wants to stop, he can stop. You have no control over that. If he stops, he can stop. And then at that point, he's still high value to you? No. So it has to be something more than monetary. It has to be something more than just the things that he's created. So I want to say that, to speak on the point of the whole thing about men are not providing, professing their love to women anymore. Men have lost the romanticism in their relationships. It's not there anymore. The pursuit, the courting is not there anymore. It's like just here I am, look at me, fall in place. And it's just not realistic. It's not the real world. So I just want to make sure that's being said.
I want to add on what Corey said about the high value men terms. I agree that it really is about what you think is high value. And the problem is that a lot of women believe that what makes a high value man is money. But some other ladies think that I'd rather be with a kind man Like that's more important than anything else, right? Like in a relationship, some women are like, I don't care how much money you make, if you're not kind, I would not date you. And I think that because we're in such a society where money is always like at the forefront, that's why you have those people that come out and call themselves high value men or women because they think that money is everything. But time has proven that it's not. So, yeah.
Okay, there's another question here. Said, do you personally feel like dating in this season is challenging or not? Some of us are married here, guys. Okay, but yes. Do you feel like dating this season is challenging or not? Before we answer that question, Sam, let me utilize you whilst you're here. Okay, because you're currently married. Let's utilize you quickly before we answer this question.
Mhm.
I asked Bruisers something similar, but for you, okay, you said you dated for a few years before you got married.
Yeah, I dated my husband like 4 or 5 years before we got married. No, maybe
Okay.
3 years. 3 years before we got married, and we've been married
Hmm.
5.
Okay. So for you, because some might say, well, some might say 3 years is a good amount of time. Some might say 3 years is short, or too long. What was that? Was that the optimum time for you? Did you have that in your time frame, 3 years, or did you have something shorter or longer in your mindset?
My story is quite interesting because I shacked up.
What are you saying? I shacked up.
I did.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I do not advise women to shack up, by the way. Do not do that.
Why not?
Because you're basically doing everything a married person does without being married. And
Okay.
I think that there's stages for everything. And I did shacked up. And well, when my situation came up, I got to a point when I first started dating my husband, and from the beginning, he was always talking about marriage, and I was swayed. And then when the time came that it was like, okay, so it's been X amount of time, and where is the ring? Um, it, his language was different. So yeah, I'm being honest. His language was different, and so I decided that I wanted us to move out and have separate apartment, and we could date. And I said, well, you're
That's
free
fair.
to date and I'm free to date. And he got afraid and he proposed.
My guy, he saw the light.
I mean, he
I like
knew. I think so. I'm going to be honest. That's something I've learned with men. They will test you.
that.
Men
Yeah,
will test you just to see
I
what
agree.
you're capable of doing. And I
Yeah,
think that's all it was. I think that, I mean, I cannot speak for my husband, but I think that he knew he was going to marry me. But since I wasn't pressing anything, he wanted to see how far I was willing to go.
I agree.
And when you realize that, as I said before, I've been encouraged to date a lot when I was younger. I'm not one of those, I'm not coming from those families where the woman, and when I say date a lot, as I said, disclaimer,
Doesn't
it
include
doesn't
sex.
have
Yeah.
to be sexual, but meet a lot of people so that right? So for my parents, it was like, well, you already went and live with this guy, which we're not for. He doesn't want to get married. Well, you're not married yet, so maybe you should just go back to do what you were doing before, which is continue dating other people until he figure himself out. And when he realized that I was serious about it, he was like, well, I mean, you're a good person and he's been good living with you, so let's get married. Did that answer your question?
Yeah. No, you did.
Okay.
One last question. How do you know that you were ready for marriage? I know, obviously, you guys were talking about it, but how did you know you personally were ready to marry?
So I'm going to be very honest. Because I was raised a certain way, at some point there
Mm,
was a lot of pressure on me. I thought I was ready to marry when we've been living for 2 years and I was doing everything that I thought a wife did. But I recently really realized that I was ready to be married whenever things got really bad and I was still there. I was still committed. But I only realized I was ready to get married once I was married for years and I was going through all those things. And I was like, oh, wow, I guess I'm capable to be somebody's wife. Like, I'm that committed. And he is that committed to me. I never realized it before because it was just, for me, it was just about the pressure of getting married at a certain age, to be honest. Only realized it not long ago that I was ready to get married.
I respect that.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it, Sam. Good insight. Good insight. Mandem, Mandem will do what Mando you allow us to do. I won't lie to you still. If you have us shacking up with you, we're probably going to shack up forever because why buy the ring when I got everything else? Yeah, right. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Did they answer the question?
Which one? No, which one?
Do you consider to be hard to date, challenging to date?
Oh no, we haven't asked that question yet.
Oh, okay,
No, we haven't asked that question. I
okay.
was asking Sam. No, I've got it. I got it again. So you're good. Yeah. So, it's the question.
If you don't mind, I just want to ask like one question. If everybody knows, marriage is basically a form of business. It's not about love. Love is important, but it's not as important as business. And the man is supposed to lead the way. So basically, if you have a man that wants to go 50-50 and you want to be traditional, that marriage obviously is not going to work. If he wants a traditional and you want to be 50-50, that's not going to work as well. So marriage is about a business. So when people put marriage on a high pedestal, it bothers me because I've seen so many women pay for their own rings, reception halls, everything. Even the mother-in-law blessing. I've seen some go as far as that because they know women and their emotions put marriage so high. I'm just happy that's why I encourage family more than anything. My daddy loved me regardless of what I had going on, you know? He always gave me hugs. I didn't really have a good relationship with my mother, but I did because there's always a woman in the waiting, you know? So I feel like a lot of men use marriage as a carrot to get women under control. And I feel like once women realize marriage is a form of business, if you marry a Dusty, you marry his credit score. You marry his potential baby mamas if you don't have any. And they literally want you to get married to him so they can put you on child support because in most states they can. So I feel like when we put marriage on this pedestal, we got to talk about the laws. You basically combining SSI numbers. And no guy, I had plenty of marriage proposals, but none from where was the business standpoint that would have been beneficial to me and any future children we could have. So I think that's another thing we have to put on the table when we talk about marriage.
Who would like to respond to that? Anyone want to respond to that? If they agree or disagree?
I'll go. All right. So I do know that there are couples out there who do have relationships that are based on business, but I think those relationships turn into business once love has fizzled out of the marriage. That happens sometimes, and you have to make it more business. Now, as far as the 50-50 working or not working is really dependent upon those two who are involved in the relationship. Whatever number you guys come up with, that's the number that'll work for you. If it's 70-30, if it's 100% zero, 50-50, whatever you guys decide on, that's on that particular couple. So we gotta be careful when saying that the 50-50 does not work because it does in a lot of relationships. Actually, it's more 50-50 relationships out here than what's being, publicized. So I understand if there are women who want more than 50%, that's your right to want that. But to say that it wouldn't work otherwise, that's the part that I agree with. And I'll leave it right there.
No, sir. I think you confused my question. I said that marriage is more a business perspective from a legal standpoint. When you get married, if that person owes creditors, those creditors could come after you legally once you're married. If you get a child within the marriage, that other mother could come for you legally within the marriage. If he's a dusty and she's the breadwinner, that she can put the wife on child support. This is legal in most states. I can't think of a state where it's not legal at. That's why I said marriage is more of a business. It's not so much that, oh, I'm a gold digger or not. No. Women benefit from marriages during the divorce. They don't benefit actually during the marriage, you know? We're basically building together. And by building together, that means whether you 50-50 or not, most men want women to be traditional. So that's why I'm not going to even put because I don't want to like cloud your judgment for my question. What I'm trying to tell you is a fact. Marriage is a legal combining contract. Just like most men don't want to put their name on a birth certificate unless they know the child is theirs, because that's a legal binding contract. And if, like I said, with marriage, if people signing their name to a contract meant something, everybody would have good credit. So what I'm trying to explain is, what is the benefit of marriage for women that men be dangling in their face? Because it seems more of a case like, I need somebody to tell the world they accept me and love me because my daddy didn't. That's what I'm trying to figure out. If that's what men use marriage as a case for or not, because it is a binding business contract. Once you're married, credit could come after you or your wife. Vice versa. If your wife got bad credit, they can come after you too. But in the most case, in Black women, they marry down. They don't marry up. So I don't understand Black men issue with getting married.
Okay. So you saying that Black men are the ones who are pushing marriage? I thought it was the other way around. I honestly thought that it's more women that push marriage than men. Maybe you guys can correct that. I'm not sure. V?
I'm gonna jump in to tag me in. So, like I said, I'm a part of a lot of communities, and the way it was explained to me is that we control the nookie. You guys control the relationship. You decide if you want to propose to us or not. So a lot of the men are saying, especially when they claim we're going to hit walls and we're going to be too old and all this other stuff that they're saying that they hold marriage they hold actual marriage, the proposal, somebody marrying you, in their hands, and that is why you need to quote unquote act right. You need to act right so somebody will choose you. So I get what Uppity is saying. I get what she's saying. I do also. I saw somebody say it kills me when women propose. I can't stand it either. I know it doesn't sound progressive, but I can't stand it when women get down on one knee and propose. Irks my nerves. But either way, but it is somewhat. It's not. Marriage is not supposed to be a business deal, but it definitely comes down to it when you think about it in the long run. If God forbid you guys get divorced, it definitely boils down to that. You don't want to go into there thinking that it's going to be bad and it's going to be a divorce, but depending on who you yoke up to, you know how they say equally yoked, if their finances are not right, if their business is not right, they don't know how to handle their money, it could be man or woman, it could take you down with them. You will go down with them because you agreed to be with them for better, for worse, for richer or poor, all that good stuff. So, but what Uppity is saying about them dangling the carrot, especially hate to say it, but especially Black women, we were kind of, I see people saying in the comments, conditioned to go along with the person, struggle with the person at some point where they will quote unquote marry you, right? And it's not always a good deal. You're not always getting a good deal, but hopefully you're not getting married just for those reasons. Most of the time you're marrying somebody because you truly love them. But at the end of the day, it can boil down to a business deal. So I see what she's saying. I think it's a different point of view, but I do understand what she's saying.
Okay, and I just want to step in real quick because obviously we can't. I don't know why you asked her to come in because we have different standpoints, and I'm talking from a legal standpoint, and it's a legal obligation. When you get married, you combining two, you become one. This is church and state are different. So when you become married, you're one. And most Black women marry into debt. They marry into baby fathers. They marry into a lot of bull.
I don't
So
necessarily agree with that.
I was muting my mic. Somebody had something to say.
Yeah, I was saying that I don't necessarily agree that Black women are marrying to death, and especially if we go about Black people as a race, I don't think that that's necessarily the case. Honestly, I don't. And that's probably maybe because of my background, because I am a Black woman, but I'm not, from certain other countries, right? So where I'm from, you want to marry a man that's that's doing well. That is something that the family look into.
Well, where I'm from New York City, and Africans have like little whole sections in I'm from Harlem, so you can go to 116 and see nothing from Africans from a certain point. And then they got shops and there's nothing but women working hard. And then these same women, you will see them in the welfare center, So I don't feel like is necessarily an African woman thing, even though I don't date American Black men. I only date Caribbean Black men, but I don't even date African men for the same reason, because I think like African men are like the kissing cousins of American Black men. So, but I'm not trying to be disrespectful to nobody's like culture or nothing like that. But at the same token, I think you got to sit here and talk real talk.
Well, I mean,
no Black women, no matter what continent you on, for the most part, you're dating down or doing 50-50. You're not sitting in your femininity, resting in your whatever the case may be. I have, because that's what my daddy brought me up with. My mother never had to work. So that's what I expected. But right. I know a lot of Black women can't say that same story. So I'm not judging nobody. But I don't even want marriage because I seen what come with it. And and my daddy, he should have did way better the way he was taking my mama through. But like I said, like, I'm not judging nobody. I just feel like Black men ain't gonna do better until Black women raise their standards. Instead of saying, oh, he claimed me as a prize. Like, it's not a prize.
So I find it interesting that you're saying that most Black women marry down, but your own mom did not, right? You said that your mom was not working when she was with your dad. So why do you have that experience if in your own family, your own mom?
Because like, I don't have to, like, I'm one of those people, even if it didn't happen to me, I'm not going to act like it doesn't exist as a collective. And that's why I feel like I'm blessed. Like, I feel like women, especially Black women, when you get to a certain point and then you sit back and like judge people and act like you don't know what it took to get to that point, that's where you lose the sisterhood. And I'm all about sisterhood and acknowledgement as Black men, as a collective across the dysphoria, because I have never exclusively dated American Black men.
I mean,
but I've never dated out my race either, though.
I feel like if we're going to talk about Black people in general, and not just what African American, I do think that there's a lot of Black women that marry up. I believe that in certain culture within the Black community, in some culture, it is very important for the family of the lady that's going to marry to date a man that is well off, and it's not necessarily of it has to be a millionaire, but financial stability in some culture is like the first thing that some families are going to look into in Black families, in African families. If I feel like I've seen a lot of that. Like, I wouldn't even, as a young woman, I wouldn't even consider marriage with a man that I feel is not financially stable. And I don't think that I am just 1 out of 10. I believe that there's a lot of women like that. And I believe that there's also a lot of Black women that work really hard and that would go ahead and marry up. And it doesn't necessarily have to be Black men.
Oh, yeah, I was about to get into that. Like, let's be honest, when they marry up, it's not Black men.
I disagree. I've seen a lot of Black women marrying very financially stable Black men.
How
I've seen a
often?
lot of that in my own entourage.
No, and I was gonna ask you out of your presenters how often, and then like I said, we don't have to say they millionaires, because like me, like I did it for myself. He's not a millionaire. He's a mechanic. I was able to stay home. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, that's not the case for all Black women, not even the majority. So I'm just asking you the percentage that you see. I'm talking about the percentage of my friends.
Well,
In my
you
culture,
gave two
they
examples
want to stick
of-
with American Black men. There's nothing I can do to take them, and I don't want to take them from that. So
you
in
gave
your
two
culture, what do you
examples.
see?
You gave your own example and your mom, and both of you said were with men where you didn't need to work, right? So you're part of like those Black women that are able to marry financially stable men. I mean, I'm not going to be able to give an example as a percentage, but I don't think that it is impossible or that I've never seen a Black woman not marrying a financially stable
But
Black
do
man.
you realize you changed your talking point? You said originally like, "Oh, I've seen it all the time," but then
But
I asked you to
I do
give
see
it.
it all the time, and maybe that's
So
because
you
I
should be able to
went
get
to
a
college in
percentage.
HBCU. Maybe that's because I went to college in the HBCU where I've seen a lot of Black
Ma'am,
men.
ma'am.
Black
It's ma'am. That's my daughter is currently running track for an elite team, and all the Black guys in the colleges, they're interested in women other than the one that look like her. So it's not so much that, you know what I'm saying? But even though my daughter's not even into dating right now, she's only 17 and she's trying to get her track scholarship. She's not focused on that. So what I'm trying to tell you is it's not so much of putting yourself in the right places. It's the mentality of the men you put themselves in places at. And Black women have a loyalty that has never been reciprocated. And because I was able to tell my daughter that with honesty, because even though I was brought up to believe this and that, I got to go in the world and I seen like, oh, this is not what my daddy said. This is not what my grandma said. Ain't none of this happening. So let me sit here and pivot and make better choices for myself. But because it was embedded in me, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like because it was embedded in me, I could never date out my race. So what I did to pivot for the next generation, I didn't put that on them like you gotta be with a Black guy. Like it was embedded in me, you know? I didn't give them no fairy tales. I let my daughter know, like, yes, there's great Black men out there, but you may not meet them. And if you do meet them, they may not like you as nothing more than a friend. Got to be ready for that.
I believe
So I
that
think like we
80%
got
of
to
Black men
advance ourselves.
most Black men actually marry Black women than people think. I think that's another discussion, but people should know that most Black men do marry Black women. The media make it look like otherwise, and it's true that at certain level, when men makes like millions, we've seen tendencies of them marrying white women, but there's a lot of Black men out there at 80% that marry Black women, and there's a lot of successful Black men that also marry Black women. It's just that they're not showing it in the media, in my opinion.
I don't have a retort, but what I gotta do is I gotta thank you, Sam and V, because you stepped in and you spoke some truths for us brothers. So I appreciate y'all.
I wanted to find out what was the point Upper T Negro was actually trying to get across. That's what I was trying to figure out. So that's why I took so long. I was trying to hear the original point. So maybe Upper T Negro can just kind of dialogue with me so I can understand what's going on. So because we
Oh,
started off with legal and then we
no,
went from legal.
I think my point was pretty clear. Like legally, marriage is a contract bond. Like I didn't
Yeah.
make that up. That's a fact, you know. And then
I'm not saying you made it up. I'm saying that I wasn't because the conversation shifted completely. It took a complete detour. So that's why I was like, so I'm trying to figure out what point you're trying to actually come with so that we can actually dialogue with it.
yeah,
So
yeah. My point was about marriage is not beneficial for Black women, and I basically gave points as why it's not.
Okay.
And
So
there
you
was
started
not
off with legal.
Yeah, it was legal. Like I said, marriage is not beneficial legally to Black women. And then I explained the legal aspect of why they were not beneficial.
Okay, so let's tackle that first and foremost. I like to take point by point. So you're saying legally it's not beneficial for Black women. Give me the reason why it's not beneficial for Black women.
Because in most cases, Black women marry down.
Okay. Do you have
And
a
when
stat
you
for that?
marry
Because you
down,
asked for a stat.
it's the same thing as you go into business with somebody. I have all the
No,
money.
wait. Do you have a stat for that?
Yeah,
Or was that how you seen your people around you?
it's
I'm not
not
disagreeing,
just
by the
me.
way.
Okay, yeah. Like
Yeah.
I don't have the actual physical stats on me, but yeah, worldwide,
Because the
this
reason
is
why I'm
a
asking
thing.
you, because when you was going back and forth with Sam, you asked her for a stat. And when people do that, I find that kind of cheeky. If you don't bring a stat yourself, but you were asking someone else to prove their point with a stat, that's kind of cheeky.
Yeah,
Now,
because
I actually
I've
agree with your
seen the
point.
stats before. I
I
just didn't expect because she stated that
but you
she
can't
no,
you can't do
I
that.
didn't bring
You
a
can't do that in
stat.
a debate.
No, I didn't bring a stat in the beginning. I asked her for her personal reference, like I brought mine. And then she
Okay.
said, I can't bring my personal reference. And then that's when I asked her for a stat. I did not ask her for a stat originally. I stated my own personal references. And
Then
then
you
she
asked for a
said,
stat. So you did ask for a
If
stat.
I
no,
can jump
I
in,
asked her for her personal references, and then she
Okay.
couldn't bring one. And
no,
then
I
I
did
brought the
bring
stat
several.
in.
I brought several references of example in my entourage of successful Black women that married successful Black men, and I've said that I've even though I do not have a percentage because I went to an HBCU where I've been around Black people of different country, different origin, intermarrying, and those people are both very successful. May it be people in pharmacy school, doctors, lawyers, accountants, very successful people of that are black that are intermarried. So I've seen that a lot. I see that a lot till this day in my entourage. And that is the reason why I disagree with her point. And I also said that it's true that in the media, a lot of, because I think another point that she had was that she feels like Black men really rather marry women that are not Black women. And that's when I said that I believe that 80%, well, I've seen a survey about it, that 80% of Black people actually marry Black people. And not only that, it is true that at a certain level, we've seen a lot of examples of very rich Black men marrying people of other races, but those are like the 1% anyway. You can be a successful man making 6 figures, 7 figures, and marrying Black women that are just as successful. And I've seen that. So that was my point. And that is why I interjected whenever she said that marriage is a disadvantage for Black women, and I don't, because they marry down. And that's where I disagreed. And I can actually bring myself as an example. I married a successful Black man, so I disagree.
Yeah. So
Okay.
the thing about it, what I love about this platform is that everyone's opinion is welcome. But when you make mention of Black men and you say you don't date Black men, and then you say that women are dating down when they date Black men, it sounds as if you're giving a perspective that you're not currently or ever taking yourself. So it's hard for me to kind of get past that piece. The part about the marriage as a business, when it comes to society, that's goes without saying. I think everyone that's listening and watching is on the panel who understands that piece of it. So I think like what Kojo was saying is that trying to get that understanding of what you meant. But if there's a statement that you were making, that's the true statement.
Can I ask you this? So did you not hear me say I don't date American black men? Because I know a lot of American black men don't consider black men that's not from America black men. Because I've had that experience all my life. Because I have never been interested in dating American black men after the age of 19. So I dated black men. Like I said, I don't date out my race. I just don't date American black men. So that seems to be an issue for a lot of black men. So I don't know if you heard that part.
Oh no. Who you decide to date is not an issue for me, but I did hear you say that. And that's what I meant to say. If I misspoke, then I do apologize. But yeah, so you're saying that women are dating down with American black men, or are you saying in black men in general? So let's just get clarity on that.
Yeah, like I said, like my experience with American black men were my dad, my uncles, and men that grew up in my community. And once I got to be 18 and got out of that protective circle, what I seen from American black men was very disheartening.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to say. And then it's still going on today. My daughter is 17, and American black men are going up to her, asking her, does she know the age of consent? These are grown men in their 30s and 20s and 40s. And when she tried to put her age under, they're going to other people, asking them, is she really this age? Is she really that age? We're not going to, I can't sit here and pretend that a lot of black women didn't become single moms as teenagers from grown men. I don't know what you can do, but I can't. But like I said, I was protected from that, and my daughter is protected from that. The only time she got out that circle is when she went to work, which I was in disagreement with. I never had to work unless I had bad grades in school. And her father thinks I don't respect money, so he wanted his daughter to work. And when she went into the work area, this is the type of black men, American black men she met. But when her father's Haitian, when she's around Haitian men, they protective of her. So it's a difference in American black men and then black men from other social circles. But to me, not Africa. That's what I'm saying.
Wait. Scoot back. Yo, scoot back. That last statement, sorry, what did you say? Just I don't want to miscue. Just want to just I don't want to miscue. Go for it again. Her connection went. Because here's my thing, right? She's given me the bruiser aspect, but the feminine aspect of what Bruiser was doing, where there's a lot of generalizations. And I feel like that's what's happening here right now. So I'm trying to fully understand where she's coming from by nailing it, what she actually means, so that I don't miscommunicate what she says, because there was a whole tangent that we took. So I'm trying to fully understand where she's coming from. I don't want to miscommunicate that. So if anyone's listening, we're just trying to understand fully. We don't want to jump in and make assumptions. So sorry, Uppity Negro, sorry, you were making a point.
I mean, my mic. I'm so sorry. Like I told you.
That's all right. No, that's all right. We're trying to understand you.
What I was trying to make, like, I'm trying to make clear to you is this: like when I turned, I live in New York City. I guess the age of consent is 17. I learned that by men harassing my 17-year-old daughter, and she learned that as well, because we thought it was 18. It was 18 when I was younger, or maybe it wasn't. I don't know. Or it was maybe a different group of men. So my daughter had to get a job. I think she was working at like Chick-fil-A at that time, through her father, basically insisting she get a job. Because like I said, I've been a traditional woman, so I never like had to work. Even growing up as a teenager, my dad never made me work unless I got like bad grades in school. Then I had to get a summer youth job, and I only had to get a summer youth job once. when I felt like environmental science, and I got a 65, whatever. But anyway, that was the only time I worked in my life as a teenager. So my
Okay.
daughter gets nothing but 90s across the board. So I never felt like she should have had to work. And her father was like against that. He's like, no, she needs to work. And I feel like he did that because, like, at the end of the day, maybe he can provide like he should. But anyway, my daughter met the same type of guys I ran across. I was 17 in 1997. My daughter's 17 right now.
Mhm.
And there are grown black men approaching her like they approached me back in 1997. I'm talking about American black men. Now, my daughter's father is Haitian.
Mhm.
Now they obviously know her dad is Haitian.
Mhm.
So anybody that know her dad, they spread the word, and they, it's like these Haitian men got their own community.
Mhm.
So she doesn't deal with those type of. I'm not saying that they don't exist. I'm saying that they have a little more coof about themselves. Whereas as American black men who are on video that have, thanks to me and my resources when you play with my kids, asking people, she says she 15. She 15? How's she 15 working here? Why is she 15 working here? 15-year-olds can work at Chick-fil-A. I don't know how to tell you that. You know what I'm saying? It's the same time limit that you can work from 15 to 17. My daughter's 17-year-old, and these black men have went out their way. And due to me and my legal knowledge, because I have people in my family that work for the legal system, I have been able to get these guys harassed by the cops. And they knew I was
So
going
are
to
we
take it a
talking?
step further. Yeah, why are you a
Okay.
grown man in your 30s questioning a teenager? She told you she was 15, she's really 17. Why do you care?
Okay, so you're talking about predatory behavior. Is that what you're talking about right now?
Yes, and I'm telling you that it happens mostly with American black men. My daughter
I'll
does
be
not
on.
have to deal
I'll
with
be
that.
honest with you. It happens across the board. If you're dealing with
I agree.
men, so it's an unfortunate thing. I hate to say it, but across the board, predatory behavior in every culture that has men exists.
Yeah, I
Like
understand
that
that,
is
but
not.
like I'm trying to say, these American black men, when you were a teenager, their stats. I don't like when you talk about stats. Like I said, I don't feel like I need to prove stats because if you go to any single mother that had kids as a teenager, I guarantee you, their baby father is 20 and up. That's the stats.
Okay, so what's your point about American black men? Because it seems like that's what the focal point is. The focal point is American black men. Would you agree? That's where your focal point is?
Yes, because that's what I had to deal with. I live in America. And that's
Okay.
the ones that was harassing me in 1997. And that's the ones who are harassing my daughter in 2023.
Okay. What's your overall point about American black? Are you saying that people
Because
shouldn't
that's
date
why I
them?
feel
Are you
like,
saying
I feel like American black men are childish. And that's why when they do get with real women, they just playing games and just basically trying to groom women with this marriage carrot. But what is the black women benefit of marriage? If you was a successful man, you wouldn't have to go for the little girls. You would go for a woman your age to go 50-50 with you or to build with you however she needs to build. And if you're going to be a traditional woman, a 17-year-old, 18-year-old, 20-year-old can't do that for you if you in your upper echelon age and upper echelon character.
okay, so I'm kind of struggling with this slightly, and I'll tell you why I'm struggling with this. Because the very thing you're describing is not synonymous with an ethnic group or a race. What you're talking about is men in general. Like this kind of behavior that you're describing if you want to call it quote unquote predatory behavior, it happens across the board. So I think I'm a little bit confused because like I said, that's why I said at the very beginning, I was confused in terms of how we got to this point. And I was confused in terms of the final point you're actually making. I think the final point you're trying to make, if I'm correct, is that you're advocating against dating African American men. Is that the point you're making? No.
No, I'm just advocating women to weigh their options. Like, don't let nobody tell, especially young women, don't if marriage is going to be beneficial to you, get married. If it's not, don't get married. If you're a younger woman, be cautious of why they going after you. That's only my advocation is going for it. Like, don't let people hold marriage as like some type of standard, because basically it's a business.
Now, did I hear you mention that you're married? Are you married?
No, I turned down all marriage proposals because nobody that asked me to marry them was worth it in the business sense.
Okay.
So wait. No, hold on. So okay, so we don't believe in marriage, right? So
No, I believe in marriage if it works for
if it's
you.
a right,
Like,
okay.
yeah.
So until then, what are we doing?
Well, for me, like
Yes.
for most, like I said, in my specific case, it works for me because he signed my kid's birth certificate, so my kids are
Okay.
taken care of financially. As a traditional woman, that was my main thing. Like, if we ever break up, he still got to take care of my kids. So that was my thing. I could always move forward and take care of myself and get independent. But what you're not going to do is leave me stuck with the bills of my kids. With most married women, especially since they marry down, they stuck with the kids and his debt. That's never been my problem. So I've never been caring about breaking up or nothing like that. Like, it's never happened for me. But like I said, like, I just want women to look at the option, because the law's going to change as the years progress.
Okay. So this gentleman that obviously is the father of your kids, you're saying obviously you're not together, but no, you're not married. Sorry, apologies. You're not married, but you as I said, you expect him to still take care of you financially. And so your advice to people is to
Well, and like I said, well, I have two kids, father, and like I said, legally, they not even legally. It's never been a need for a legal thing to come involved. Like, my ex, he take care of both of his kids, and the guy went out, he takes great care of his kid. Like, it's a wonderful thing, and there's no drama, because at the end of the day, like, I wasn't mad about nothing. And like my ex that I left, he actually married somebody who makes way more money than him, and now I get way more child support, and I never even put him on child support. He literally married up, and now he's able to provide better for our other children. And then
So he's
now,
American or no?
no, he's not American.
So he's a Caribbean man.
Yeah.
That married down.
And American women. No, he married American women. He married up.
So he married up. The woman married down.
Correct.
But how is that all about him? So
it's beneficial to
like
me. I don't know what it is
black
for her.
man issue is what you're saying. It's not even just Black American men. It's men in general.
What I'm saying is, if I was dealing with an American black man, I would be paying child support.
How?
Because I would have had to get a job to provide for my child.
Oh, so you don't provide for your child now?
Yes, I do provide for my child, but not in the way that most of black men think you should. I provide for them like a mother should, nurturing, getting them together, stuff like that. But financially, no, I don't provide.
Oh, so I guess you were afforded the opportunity to not work.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
But he married another black woman who did work.
I just don't. There's so many layers to your argument, and listen. Some
But
people see
it's not
exactly what you're
layers,
saying.
it's standards. It's not layers, it's called
Just
standards.
hear me out for a second, right? So there's this, but by layers, I mean there's multiple things that you're talking about, right? So one of the things you mentioned was the fact that you feel like marriage is not beneficial to women because in many instances when they marry, especially Black women marrying Black men, they marry down, right? So that's one thing. Then you went off on another tangent and you spoke about the fact that you
I
feel
disagree
like
with
Black.
tangent.
Wait, just let me finish 2 seconds because I've definitely been listening. You talked about Black American men being problematic because they have a predatory nature, in addition to not being financially stable. And you mentioned that you've had better experiences with Caribbean men. Now, this is where I'm going to land my plane. The thing that's conflicting to me is that even in your own scenario, your child's father is Caribbean. He married another woman, a Black American woman, and he also married a woman who makes more money than him that you've been able to financially benefit. So I just think one part of your argument is definitely flawed because you even have experiences that discredit that belief. And that's the part about Black American men. The other part is subjective. Some people agree, some people disagree, but definitely your own story proves that it's not just Black American men that marry women and they get the benefit financially.
Well, to help you explain my story more better, because the way you just explained it was correct, but your cognitive skills is like off, because everything I said lined up. Like I said, Black women marry down, and Black women pick up the pieces for the husbands they married out with. You basically just said what I said. But the way you heard it and the way I said it, I guess was different because you're going to take it different. So my point and where I'm going to land this plane is that Black women stop marrying down. And I feel like if Black women had more standards in their marriages, a lot of Black women wouldn't get married because they're looking for somebody to claim them. I never had that issue.
But wait, you're saying you don't. Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. Okay, wait, just to clarify again. Just before I say what I say. Do you believe in marriage or not? Whether it's Black American or not, do you believe in marriage or not?
I believe that if the marriage is beneficial to you, go ahead and get married because marriage is a business first.
Okay.
Love should be involved, but it's a business first.
Okay, so the other two gentlemen who the gentleman first who has your kids, and then this gentleman now, I'm guessing they're up, right? Would you agree? Would you say that's true? You're dating up?
Yes, they're up than me. Exactly. I would never date down.
Fantastic. So is marriage in the works with this guy that you said you're dating now?
Absolutely not, because I always wanted kids. I did not want marriage. Like I said, as long as my kids going to be taken care of financially, I'm cool with that. If we dissolve because of your character, like I said, if marriage meant anything, everybody would have good credit because you signed your name on a credit. If I believe on having connections, like if I break up with anybody I break up with, like I broke up with my ex, he still take care of his kids. He still paid my rent, everything. His only thing was if I'm going to be involved with somebody else, like he's not going to take care of my bills, But as far as like if I'm single, whatever the case may be, that's the type of guys I dealt with. And the only type of guy I will deal with. I have standards.
So sorry, if I want to hear this correctly, I know the audience is feeling what they're feeling, but I'm intrigued now because I'm hearing stuff and I'm intrigued. So you're telling me the guy I don't know the guy, the father of your kids he is paying for your rent and for the kids. That's what you're saying, right? But so long as you were single,
he used
to pay for rent.
Correct. And
Okay.
when I got with my new, when I broke up with him, There was
Yep.
nobody around my kids and stuff like that. Like there's requirements and stuff like that. I'm not gonna say like, oh, I could just do what I want. No, there was like requirements. Like when you like they say like a lot of black women submit to men for no reason. Like you got to pay the cost to be the boss. Put it like that. So there was basically an understanding. Like if I'm gonna be dating people and bringing them around my children, he's not gonna help me with anything but things for his children. There was never a court order. It was never a need for a court order.
Okay.
So once we separated, and like when we separated, it was years later. Like my older kids are 17 and 19. I have my daughter now, she's 4 years old. He don't
Okay.
have any kids. You know what I'm saying? So my son is in college. My daughter's about to go to college.
Okay.
He done married somebody else. You know what I'm saying? So there's no problems. You know what I'm saying? Even if she
Okay.
wanted to make it, even though she's paying for him to be the king that he wants to be, I never paid for that. And I feel like he respects me for that. Even though she didn't like it, but she had to deal with it until I got with somebody else. Even though she was paying for him to be the king.
Okay. And then you said you have a 4-year-old. Is that with a new guy now? I'm just trying to picture. Okay. So that's
Correct.
the new guy.
Correct.
So if you said that you marry up, I'm wondering why you're not currently married to the new guy then.
No, I
if it's
said
beneficial to you.
okay, I'm sorry. I didn't say I
Yeah,
marry.
sorry,
I meant to say like, I think I did say like I would not marry nobody because if I waited for my expectation to marry, I would never have kids. You know what I'm saying? So you basically have to compromise with yourself. See, this is my
Wait,
life and it's all
wait,
about me.
wait, I'm confused. Wait, sorry. Wait, so because you said obviously you only would think about marrying if it benefits you, and I'm saying the current guy surely benefits you right now. So why if maybe it's in the works, I don't know. Is that in the works? Are you
No,
trying to get married
see,
to
I
the new
think
guy?
like marriage is not at the forefront of me. Marriage benefits. Marriage benefits. I haven't met a man. Marriage benefits me. Do he benefit me to have a child with? Do he benefit me to have a committed relationship with? Yes. Do he benefit me for marriage? No, he doesn't. Because at the end of the day, it's too much involved if things go left that can affect me personally, and that can trickle down to my children. I have great credit. You know what I'm saying? I have a lot of things going on for myself. But
But
like I said,
surely the new guy has great credit, right? The new guy must have
yeah,
great credit.
sure.
But
I'm
So
pretty
then
sure he
why
does.
would there not be a benefit?
can I
He has
ask,
money.
wouldn't the guy who's marrying you be dating down
Yes,
because
as
you're
he
not
should. Most
working?
men do date down when they marry. Every other race of men understand that they dating down. Real men don't date women for the potential money they can give them. Real men date
Right.
women for how they can give them peace, give them a you know what I'm saying, a good thing. That's like I have never had a problem getting men or keeping men or getting marriage proposals. I actually think I get so many proposals because I literally don't want to be married. I think guys think I'll be playing, but I'm so serious about it. I feel like it's a business,
But I just
and
don't.
I
What I'm
always
trying.
wanted kids. I never wanted. I did want marriage when I used to be a Christian, but I don't want marriage at this point. I'm gonna mute myself.
Okay, I guess the problem I'm having I'm having a hard time understanding how, if you're not currently working and you marry any man, that you won't be marrying down and he won't be marrying up, right? Because whatever job he has, it's going to be more than what you currently have. So how would you be hurt financially if you're not working and the men that you've had children with are taking care of you? That seems like an ideal scenario. So if you did choose to get married, there would be no
Okay.
marrying down for you.
No. Do you see what the issue is? I could hit the lotto tomorrow. Number one, and then number two, the fact is this: I'm not like I lived my life, like my 20s. I had fun working, networking, all this stuff, you know, and all of that things I did, I'm using it to progress my children. Like I used to work for the community chamber of commerce. I used to work for a trademarking company. Like I was like, it depends on how you was raised. See, I was raised to work jobs, to learn the interactions of how you want to build yourself. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't raised to be a workhorse at the end of the day. So that anyway, it was never gonna happen. But how I was indoctrinated was to be a traditional person. And based on what I've seen, I can never deal with American black men because they always want you to go 50-50. And if they don't, they want to act like they're doing you a favor. So I just basically, like, I'm sorry for my answers seem all over the place. It's just I'm not used to like debating certain things.
That's
Like,
cool. That's cool. That's cool.
yeah, because like at the end of the day, I feel like a man's job is to protect and provide. If you can't do that, you're not a man to me. So that's like the basically end of our conversation. And that's my standards. So if you don't meet it, we ain't gonna have to. I'm not one to argue with you, make you see my way of life. Like we could just move on. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I don't have no. I have a good thing with patience. You know.
No,
So
I understand. I think if you could just be more specific, like, so what would a man need to make in order for you to feel like he could provide for you? Is there a dollar amount?
for marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. For marriage, you have to, because I live in New York City, but I will be willing to
Me too.
relocate. Okay, so yeah, so you have to clear like 1 million after taxes.
A year?
Yeah, this is New York City.
Okay.
Wait, how much?
$1 million. Seven figures.
Wait. But okay, so wait. sorry. But wait, £1 million? That's a lot of money. All right, cool.
That's New York
So-
City though. If I live
No,
down south,
okay,
it
don't
was
convert
That's
it.
New York.
$1 million US, because the pound
which is
to
roughly
dollar ratio is.
800k or so, 750k. Okay, so
She said
so
$1
are
million
you saying
US.
$1 million US? Okay, so the gentleman that you're with currently, is he earning $1 million?
No, that's why we're not married.
So you need that to marry. You need $1 million to marry.
Correct. Not to be comfortable and have a relationship. That's something different, you know?
So
I guess I'm like a
so
guy with that
now
one.
I'm totally on your side because I understand why you stay unmarried, because the odds are definitely, those are some slim pickings, especially for men of
Correct.
color. So
Mhm.
now I
Yeah.
totally understand and now I have clarity. So no more pushback from me.
Oh no, I got pushback. I've got so much pushback because so you need $1 million to get married, right? You need $1 million
No,
to
I
get
don't
married.
need a million to get married. I need to clear a million after taxes. I'm not saying he needs
Okay.
to spend it gifts on me
So
and all that, because
clearing
I
$1
want, if you
million.
my husband, I want you to build. I want us to build. You know what I'm saying? But I don't want to have to sit here.
What
So
are you
Kojo,
building?
you know
Oh
what
yeah,
the tax
wait.
rate is? So he needs to make about $1.5 million approximately before taxes.
So okay, so you need okay. I don't get it. So why did you have because this is sounding concerning for me. Okay. So why did you have children with people who are not making clearing a mill?
Because like I said, me marrying somebody is a business deal. Kids is something I want. I'm gonna do things
No.
I want, and everybody has to do things they want for their life. It doesn't have to make sense to everybody, but at the end of the day, I'd rather have kids with somebody who's committed with me. I don't listen. I'm not trying to build nobody. I'm not trying to help nobody get built. Like I want people to come to me whole. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm coming to you whole. I'm coming to you with my problems fixed. I'm not coming to you with your drama. I'm not doing it. And if I'm in a relationship with you, I already like I'm a perceptive person, you know? So I know what you like. I'm able to pick up on things without you even telling me that. You know what I'm saying? So I'm bringing a lot to the relationship. I'm being your doctor, your therapist, I'm being a lot to you. You know what I'm saying? Like I like the traditional women lifestyle. That's what I was raised in. So
I ain't
that's
mad
what
at
I
that.
want.
I'm
And
not mad at that. I'm confused by the action because
yeah,
it
because a
takes
lot of guys
1.5.
like they expect traditional women and they can't protect and provide. They want traditional women to go 50-50 with them. And I'm so against that.
That's fine. I hear that, but that's not what I'm talking about. Where the confusion sets in for me is you need a person to clear 1.5 million for you to marry them, but you're willing to have kids with somebody who doesn't even clear that at all. But then you say it's about you, and then I'm scared. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm scared because the way
No,
you're
see, now
talking.
you're twisting my words.
Wait.
Like
No,
I
no, wait,
always wanted kids. I did not want
wait.
marriage.
Listen to what I'm going to say to you. Wait. Now I'm scared, not because of the money, but because of the fact that you said, I've always wanted kids, but you're willing to vacate your 1.5 million to marry, which is your safety, your sanctuary, to be with somebody else who makes far less than that. But then just because you can have kids. So wait, hold on. So is the building not for you and the kids, or is the building just
No,
solely for you?
no. See, this is what you also negating what I said is that
Okay.
he has to have the same goals as me, like as far as family. So I may not get that 1.5 million, but my kids will from him. You know what I'm saying? Through
Yeah,
whatever
but you
reason.
didn't
But
marry that. You marry somebody who doesn't have 1.5 million.
that's
That's the confusion. So they're not
that.
going
No,
to
I'm
inherit
saying
that.
that's your confusion, but it's not mine. Like my kids are well provided
No,
for.
no. The point you made was I can marry if they clear 1 million, but you
Mm-hmm.
then ended up negating your own rule to marry to have kids with somebody who's not going to give your kids this inheritance of that 1 million. So you, in the
No, no,
fact
no,
of
no. My
negated
goal
your
isn't
own.
what my goal isn't inheritance. My goal is my kids to have inheritance. My goal is to have a kid that has a dedicated father that wants to go to that rate so he can leave them millions. But I always wanted to have kids. I did not want a marriage. So it's all about what's important to you. That's why I said I don't judge people. If you want to sit here and pay for your wedding ring and marriage, go ahead. You want to go 50-50, go ahead. I will never do that with a relationship. So if I sat here and like at the end of the day, I have to basically compromise. I said, I don't know if you heard of her. It's like she's not on YouTube no more. It's a lady called YouTube. You heard me first time. She basically, I was listening to her in my 20s. She basically said like you have to get realistic with yourself. Like you're not gonna find a fine man who makes like six figures and that. You know what I'm saying? She told us all of that way before Kevin Simmons came aboard. This lady been saying that. Like be realistic with your goals. So that's what I did. I heard her when I was in my 20s. So I already knew, okay, chances of me finding a guy I actually want to marry, not realistic. Do I want kids? Yes. Do I have problems getting rid of guys without paperwork? Absolutely. So my thing is this: take care of your children, take care of me. If it ever stops, we don't get along no more. As long as you take care of your children, I'm gonna take care of my children. The best thing for a child is a co-parent. The best thing for a child is a family unit, obviously too. But if it don't work out, I would like co-parents. But I'm not gonna sit here and especially because the reason why I only talk about black men because I don't date out my race. So I'm not gonna sit here where the culture is basically enabling black men to be toxic and dangle marriage and act like marriage is so beneficial. I'm not gonna do that. I want my kids to be taken care of. That's all I want.
I hear you. Listen, I mean, I hear you. I think the generalizations are a bit mad. I won't lie to you. I disagree with the generalizations, but you are welcome to have that viewpoint for yourself. I think if you feel that way, that your experiences have taught you that to show that way, fantastic. But I'll be very honest with you. Your generalizations, they're not accurate. I'll be honest with you. But by all means, I think you should feel free. Um, to do as you please, and yeah, I will leave it. I will leave it at that. That's what I would say. In that regard, yeah. Okay. Um, all right. Let's get back on topic. Sorry, I'm going to just quickly mute you quickly. Let's get back on the topic. Let's get back on the topic. Oh, it was a good conversation. Look, I learn something new every day. You know what I mean? So, we grow and we learn. So I like that. All right, cool. Let's get back into it. The question was going to be asked, and the question that was asked originally, which I didn't get to ask, is: do you feel the dating in this season is challenging or not? That's the question. All right, let's get back on the topic. Hold on, let me reset. Whoa, Chile. Let me reset. Let me be professional. Okay. All right, let me be professional. All right, let's get back on topic. So, topic question, which was by D earlier on, was: do you personally feel like dating in this season is challenging or not? I've got Keisha on here. I've got David on here. I'm gonna get Bronsberg because I know he said he wanted to come up as well. And David's on here as well. So we've got a few people on the panels now. All right, cool. Question. So, question we're asking is: do you personally feel like dating in the season is challenging or not? Please, let's not go back. I know you may feel like you want to answer what what Queen was saying, but we ain't going back. Okay, we done with that question now. Okay, we can talk about that after dark. We'll leave that for after dark. So, yes, question that was posed. David, welcome to the chat. What's your thoughts to this question? Well, I can't even ask you. You married, bro. It's kind of hard to ask this question. It's you married, skid, so it might be hard to answer that question yourself. You know what I mean? But I don't know if you want to tackle that. You can try if you want to tackle that. No, you can't. You married. You've been married for a long time. Let me ask someone who's not married. I'll come back to you, David. Keisha, how you doing? Can you hear me? Keisha, can you hear me? Keisha.
I told you how.
Oh, baby, your connection
Yes, I
is
can hear
doing a
you.
lot. Okay. Question. The question was this question: do you personally feel like dating in the season is challenging or not? Keisha, baby, the internet not working with you. It ain't working with you. I'm gonna have to let you go. Come back when the internet progresses. I'm so sorry. All right, back to the question again. Bronzebird, welcome to the conversation. We'll ask the question: do you personally feel like dating in the season is challenging or not?
First off, I gotta say, hey yo, what's good? Bronzeberg here, fellow New Yorker. You feel me? You know what I'm saying? Can you put that question on a jumbo screen so I can see it?
Yeah, no way, sir.
Feel me?
Man, like
Bagman ting. What's good? So she says, do you personally feel like dating in this season is challenging or not? I mean, it's not just a season, right? Like it's just in general. You know what I'm saying? Like I still try to have a positive perspective on dating, but like it's challenging regardless, because it's like now it's kind of like a tug of war. Like you got women that come with expectations, and then you got men that feel like if they don't meet those expectations, they out the game. And it doesn't really matter to some type of like point that the money you earn. You know what I'm saying? That's just how I see it. It's just that, women and men are scared of each other. And so I'm just feeling like, I can only wish well, for myself and others that just want to really date and find somebody. Like, I wish y'all well. So that's the only thing I got on that.
Appreciate it, bro. Appreciate it. It's V. Dating in this current climate, what are you telling me? Is it challenging or not?
It's definitely challenging because, as I stated earlier, people have different sets of standards and nobody's backing off. So people are wanting a perfect fit or a perfect human being in order to move forward with a relationship. And also we have just differences in opinions, differences in approaches, and nobody's willing to compromise. I almost was like, never mind, I was about to put my church finger up and walk off, but but I decided to stay here. But either way, I think that it is challenging out here because we have too many different points of views and nobody's coming to the middle ground, and that's what you need for a relationship to work.
Appreciate it. Corey, welcome back. Not you wiping the lip. Sir, the food must have been good. Is dating, what's dating like in 2023, 2022, 23? Do you personally feel like dating this season is challenging or not? We're trying to get your perspective, sir.
With all due respect to what everyone else is saying, I don't think it's challenging at all. It's not challenging for me because I know what I want. And I have good judge of character. So when I date people, I usually do a pretty good job with, spotting the right type of people to date. So I don't have as many problems as maybe somebody else would. It's not the boast, it's just I'm really self-assured when it comes to what I want and what I need to be happy, and being transparent about what I can provide as well. So it made a good handshake. So I don't really see a challenge.
Love that. He says it's not challenging. Sean, what are you telling me? Challenging or not?
It's definitely challenging. It's definitely challenging. I think it is, trying to find people of like mind that you're on the same page with and, you can build with. I think that there's some challenges there. And I think that's on both sides, right? So once you do find that person, I think, hey, listen, it's best to settle down and work with them. If you're on the same page, you both like each other, you're attracted to each other, you have similar goals, you have a similar idea and understanding of what a relationship is, you've dealt with any baggage effectively. I think, getting that combination is just not that easy. It's possible. I don't think it's impossible. I definitely think it's possible. I think there's good folks on both sides of the house that are out there, but finding them is definitely a challenge. You got to weed through some things. So my thoughts.
Appreciate that. I think I haven't really dated for the last 2 years, to be honest, but I see the options. They're there. You know what I mean? I see the options. I see the options. I'm trying to chill though. But no, do I think it's challenging? I think there is some challenges in dating. I think even with the modern type of dating, listen, I ain't gonna lie to you. Instagram is a dating app for me, guys. Okay, I don't use traditional dating apps, but Instagram is a dating app. Okay, all right. YouTube's a dating app. Okay, for me. Okay, I'm gonna find one of you wives up in here. Okay, but no, I mean it's I guess it's difficult in the sense of finding the person that fits you. I think also as well in terms of like where you're going. Sometimes in my head, sometimes I'm trying to figure out who would be the best fit. Sometimes at points because you start to change, but I think sometimes you just need to take a step of faith and just step out. But that's another conversation for another day. I think it's a bit of both. I understand if it's difficult because I see some difficulties in there, and parts of it I don't see it difficult. What I do think is difficult is as you get older, I ask the question, where do you meet people? Because like obviously we don't club no more as much, whatever. If you're not really on the internet too tough, where do you meet people? Because that was a question in my head. I was asking myself, someone needs to start opening up a 35 plus meeting place. I'm not even talking about dating thing. I'm talking about just a nice, safe environment to meet, chill vibes, some kind of event where those of us who are mature can meet. Okay, you know what I'm saying? Like we need something like that, or 25 plus. And do you know what I mean? Because it just feels like after you get to a certain age, where are you meeting these people? That is the question. You're like, apart from church, your workplace, like, so as much as I might great advice, go out to places and go to do your hobbies. Yeah, you might meet someone, but it might be the odd one person. And you know what I mean? And they might be crazy. You know what I mean? Yodeling on the top of a mountain while you're on your walk. I mean, that's not really the kind of person you want to meet. Do you know what I mean? So I'm asking myself that real question, I'm asking myself that real question. Where do you meet people when you get older? So that's why I'm saying I'm keeping myself internet based, okay? Because we're all on the internet, okay? All right. But let me ask. So there are two married people at the moment. So obviously, you guys might have slightly different perspectives. Maybe not. But let me go to Sammy first. Sammy, for you, someone said go ready to love. Dating, was it? I mean, obviously, I know you've been married for a few years now, and you dated for a few years. But was dating difficult at the time when you were trying to get into a relationship that you wanted to be in? Was it difficult at the time? I know you have
No,
no.
dating was not hard because I dated a lot in college, and you get to meet a lot of people.
Mm,
When in college, I think that an advice that was given to me was that you should meet your husband in college. Once
okay.
again, I think that my upbringing is quite different because I was given a lot of information,
Mm,
very early on. So dating was not hard, but finding the right person
okay.
is not easy,
Okay.
right?
I
You
like
can
that.
go on dates, but finding the right person, I don't think is easy. I don't even think you can really find the right person. I think that you have to find somebody that you like enough to want to cohabitate with, really.
Mm,
I don't think there's such things as like the perfect right person. I really don't. I really don't. I don't think that most of us will be lucky enough to meet that. But will you meet somebody that you respect, that you like, that you love, and that you can cohabitate with and like compromise with? Yes, totally. But the right person, I don't know.
mm, I hear that. I hear that. Appreciate that. David, same question to you. I know obviously at the time when you were dating, was it difficult? Or was it a better question to ask? Finding the right person was difficult. Was that a better question to ask?
Well, Happy New Year, everyone. First of all, good to see you guys. And so, with the questions with the definition of dating. So, if you look at the let's say the new generation definition at the dictionary, just type it in Google. It says to go out with someone in whom one is romantically or sexually interested. So, for me, to bring it back to me, I met my wife in uni when I was doing my PhD. But to be honest, I didn't meet her with the idea of um, started we're just studying, and I just met her at like the Bible study kind of thing for PhD students. And I just saw and met her, and okay, we just greeted each other. She was even telling me later, like, you didn't collect my number on the first day you met me and whatever. I'm like, because I wasn't checking you out that way. I just wanted to meet you organically, like, oh, this is a nice person to meet. And to me, that's how I think people should actually find people. Just get to meet nice people, get to meet people that you vibe with, get to meet people that are going where you're going. And then when you meet people like that and you have 5, 6, 7 of them that you know what, or 2 even that you really feel like are down with you, then you can actually say, you know what, okay, this one is someone I can actually see forever with. So for me, I don't see like the whole idea of getting someone like that to marry with that idea of, okay, you know what, I'm going out fishing today. That's why the whole idea of, oh, so what are you looking for when you just meet someone, to me is a bit pretentious, because now I'm just going to say everything you want to know. I'm going to say, oh, I like to be a provider, I like to do whatever, because I know that's what you're looking for. But if I know you, I know that, okay, this is what you like, this is how you move, these are the things you're interested in, and things like that. Then I can say, okay, you know what, I know you. Then we can go from there. So we can build trust and get to know each other. And I think to round up that, women are sort of in a very powerful position, because choosing who you want to have forever with is such a powerful position that you are in as a woman, and you can really leverage that. So that's the idea of meeting several guys that you vibe with, that are going where you're going and are on the same direction, is good. Then you can sort of pick, okay, you know what, this is a guy that I really like that way. So that's just my perspective on it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate David. Appreciate that. All right, cool. Let me see, 'cause I think I saved some other comments that were on there as well. People are saying about go to church. Some people are saying find these groups as well. This dating is not easy out here. Have you got audience? Have you got any more questions you had to ask the panelists whilst we're here? Innit? You get me? Whilst we're here, because actually we've gone past even our time, cry. But if you've got any more questions, I can ask the panelists here if they for any more questions. If you want to ask them, whilst they're up here, you get me? Otherwise, we'll lock it off and we'll go into our behind the scenes and chop it up. Okay. Well, listen, look, audience, if you're already on the Patreon, if you're already with the Discord, you can continue this conversation. I see you guys are in the chat. Y'all having a whole different conversation. I appreciate that as well. Oh, Bree, shout out to Bree. Thank you. Coach, thank you for your patience and doing these panel discussions. Definitely helping bridge the gap between men and women. Hopefully some people will go back, watch, and learn from discussions with your panelists. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much, Bree, for that as well. Much appreciated, Bree. Good to have you on board as well. Oh, question has come in from Jay. She says, do women believe men can tell them the truth, though? Is that what we are? I've not answered. Do women believe that men can tell? Oh, no, the question is, do women believe men can tell them the truth? Well, that's for the women to answer. V, you're smiling. So, V, do you believe that men can tell you the truth? So, not even that men do you believe they can even tell you the truth? Are they capable?
No. No. No, I'm just kidding. Yes, they can tell me the truth. Now, how I'm gonna take it is gonna be depends on how I'm feeling that day and what they're telling me, and if I'm open to it. But yes, I do believe they can tell the truth, and I either accept it or I don't. So
okay. Yeah, I hear that. Thank you, V. Sam, do you believe men can tell you the truth?
Yes, 100%. Too much of the truth sometimes.
Well, I'll be damned. Well, I'll be damned. No, I appreciate that. Thank you for that. Any more questions, audience members? Any more questions? Any more questions? Chat's on the mad thing. I don't listen, guys. If you want to have more conversations, listen, you need to join the Discord, because once I lock this off, you know what, the conversation going to end. So if you already haven't joined our Patreon, you can find us at Little Black Book Patreon. Subscribe to that and get involved with the Discord and have this conversation there, because I can see you guys are really going in. You know, you guys are going in. So I don't want you guys to miss out on great conversations with other people. I'm gonna end it here. I think it's a safe place to end it here. You know what? The conversation was interesting today. It took a turn that I never expected. You know, sometimes conversations does that. It takes a turn you never expected. And we went somewhere. So listen, I will definitely take that portion of the clip and put it separately, so you can watch it separately, because I'm gonna need to watch it again, because I was lost for a long time, and Jesus found me. So we're gonna go into the after dark portion of this situation now. So if you guys want to stay around, you can't, because I'm locking it off. But if you're on Discord, you can come and have the conversation there. I appreciate you guys. Listen, before I go, Sean, sorry, please, benediction. I'm scared of your benediction today, but benediction, please, for today. Before I thank my lovely panelists and we bounce.
You see the full view? You're muted, Coach.
I love the top, bro. I love the top.
Yes,
God save me.
God saved us all. So there you go. Listen, I think tonight's conversation proved that listen, we all can handle a little bit of each other's truths, right? Because we heard some, some opinions, and we got through it. We made it through, So look, I think sometimes as men we struggle with hearing the truth, but it depends on the truth, right? And the same for women. We see that some women can struggle with living their truth or understanding the truth or dealing with a man's truth. It is definitely an option, right? Not an option, but it is definitely something we both have struggles with. So I think listen, sometimes things are not so one-sided, and we saw that play out tonight. But I think when we sit down and we have a conversation and we really talk about it and we look at our opinions, that we probably have more in common than we do not. And it is best that we try to find a way to understand each other, right? And having early communication very early on helps us to navigate and make sure we make the right decisions with who we choose to be with, right? So look, if you find that somebody doesn't meet your criteria or doesn't work for your program, you got to let them go. And I think that is the smart way to do on both sides of the fence, right? But I think the most important thing that we learned is that whatever is your truth, be gentle with your truth, be loving with your truth, be understanding with your truth, be compromising sometimes with your truth. Doesn't mean compromise your values. It means compromising and understanding that you just might be wrong on some things. So again, lead in love, live in love, you always end in love. Back to you, Coach.
Much appreciation, Sean. Thank you. My panelists, listen, thank you so much. Sam, Corey, Bronzebird, V, David, and also as well Uppity Goddess as well. We appreciate you coming through. Listen, next week we'll be back on Tuesday night. So I'll figure out a topic for us. Alternatively, if you guys have a topic that you really want us to touch on, audience members, email me, DM me. If you think there's a topic that we should talk about as a group as well, let's tackle it, as an open panel. Alternative as well, if you guys want to join the open panels, just send me an email or send me a DM or whatever, saying you want to get on. We'll have you on here. You do need to come up. Yeah. So if you're going to come up, you need to come up. Okay. Yeah. But honestly, listen, it's been an interesting conversation. And it's been one of laughs, insights, some truths that I have to take away. And also as well, it's been fun having you guys be involved once more again. So we'll see you tomorrow night for another live. We'll have Sisters. If you guys watch Sisters, we'll be having a live about the latest episode that dropped today. And if you watch Married at First Sight, we'll also have a live straight after the Sisters live, talking about Married at First Sight. So I can't wait to discuss those two shows in the coming days as well. And I think in February we'll start also Fresh Prince, because I think Fresh Prince will be kicking back up again. So we'll be doing a live for that particular show as well. Look, guys, it's been amazing. We'll see you Saturday night as well for Ready to Love. But listen, until then, Chile. I don't know what to tell you. It's been one of those conversations. It feels like I've watched a game of sport. When you watch an amazing game of sport, you just can't believe what happened in the sport. That's how I feel like right now. But anyway, listen, have a great night, guys. We'll see you again very, very soon. Much love and appreciation. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. We appreciate you guys.